You can pass judgment. Do you know why I came to Ohio today? Do you? I'm not real sure myself. But it's not right. It's not right to pass judgment. Let me give you an example out of Islamic teaching so you can understand something. One time there was a battle. Okay? Muslims are fighting against non-Muslims with swords. People are killing people. Okay? And one of the Muslims was ready to kill his opponent, and the other man said, wait, I want to accept Islam and be one of you guys. And I'm translating his words. He actually said, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah. It means I bear witness there's no God to worship except Allah. The man killed him anyway. The Muslim killed this non-Muslim anyway. He killed him. When this story reached back to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was so upset about it. He was so upset about it, he told that person, he said, what will you do with your statement of no God to worship except Allah on the day of judgment? He said it so many times, the man said, I wish I had not entered Islam yet. I wish I could do it now and start fresh. Because you don't know what's in his heart. He said, but I thought he was just saying that so we wouldn't kill him. He said, even so, if a man says it, you do not kill them. There's a famous statement in teaching in Islam, anybody who says no God to worship except Allah, his money and his life, not in that order, his life and his property are safe from your hand. Safe from your hand. But, by the way, that doesn't mean he said, oh, I worship only one God. You go, okay, here's my sword. No, you don't have to do that either. You can wait and check out the guy, see if he's for real, but you certainly cannot kill somebody who has surrendered. Because now let's come to this word that nobody asked me about, and I'm disappointed, by the way, guys. You're supposed to say, what about jihad? Nobody brought that up. Would anybody like to ask that? Raise your hand. What's jihad? Want to ask that question? Okay, I accept that. Now, good question, ma'am. Like the way she asked that, too. Jihad comes from the root word in the Arabic language, jahada. And it means, by the word itself, to struggle with something all the way through to completion. In Islamic understanding, it means to go to war with swords, knives, guns, spears, whatever, to fight. It means that. And I've heard a lot of people say, what does it mean? That means something inside yourself. Get out of here. The worst thing in the world is a liar. Don't lie. If you don't know, say I don't know. If you're too chicken to say anything, say clap, clap, clap. But don't lie. It means to fight. But I just gave you the example of a real jihad. Did you understand the meaning here? Go back and analyze it. As soon as the people will accept that there's only one God to worship and will not fight you, you cannot fight them. Hello? Christians worship how many gods? One God. Yes or no? Yes? Never mind that 3 equals 1 deal. That's okay. Just leave that alone, okay? They don't even figure that out themselves. I'm saying Christians and Jews and Muslims worship one God. Yes or no? As long as they don't fight you, the Quran says, you don't fight them. The Quran says that. But when they will not allow the message of one God in worship be propagated, when that ceases, and these were pagans worshiping statues, sticks and stones, and rocks and bones. I'm working that into a little poetry there, by the way. What I'm saying is, when those kind of people will stop religion, then you have to step up to the bat. Because if you would not fight for your religion, then you really don't have a religion worth having. If you won't fight for your God, what will you fight for? Money, power, position, name, title, a flag? A flag that they'll wrap you up in and put you away after you're dead? Is that what you're fighting for? Or are you fighting for something bigger than that? And that's the point. When people will bring about a society which is so broken down and so demented to the state where you have open acts of foul, and I don't want to get into it, but you know what I'm saying? Horrible acts that people are doing right out in front of God and everybody. And nobody to stand up to them, then what do you have? What do you have? When you allow a human being to make the rules, what will they do? They'll make the rules to suit themselves. Islam does not teach majority rules. The majority does not rule in Islam. Allah rules in Islam. And it's the same God of Abraham as it is of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and all the prophets, including the Christ, Jesus, peace be upon him. Same God, same teaching. And if you want to preach to me about how that Christianity is peace, please, please. We start with the Bible and then we'll go through 2,000 years of history and you're going to be real disappointed. The word sword. How many of you thought Islam got spread with a sword? Raise your hand and be honest. You believe that? But you heard that before, didn't you? How many times? By the way, there are many words in the Arabic language for the word sword. Something like 13, 16 words in Arabic language for the word sword. I only know a couple of them. Muhanid and Saif. But in English, there's only one word for sword. One only word for sword. Sword. Okay? We have sword, and that's it. With all these different kinds of words for sword in Arabic, and all of the fighting that was going around in that 23 years that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, was here, how many times is the word sword in the Quran? And how many times is the word sword in the New Testament? Or in the Bible altogether? I have a concordance of both books. A concordance means a listing of every time a word appears so you can find it in those verses. Rows and rows and rows of the word sword in the Bible. Rows, over 200. I gave up counting. How many times the word sword in the Quran? Not one. Not Saif, not Muhammad, not any of the forms of the word sword anywhere in the Quran. But it does tell you to fight people if they fight you and try to spread disbelief. Yeah. So, and this answers one of the questions that came to me asking about the statement. It says, slay them. Well, please, how many of you like to hear a preacher get up and take part of the Bible and just quote the part he likes? You like that? We got any Christians here? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I got my favorite half a passage I'd like to read to you today. Huh? Okay. I don't like it when you do it with the Bible, and I don't like you to do it with the Quran. Read the verse right before it. It tells you who you're fighting. Who are you fighting? It's telling you that these are people who are oppressing you. Fighting you. It's giving you permission to fight back. It's telling you it's good for you to fight back if it's for God. If some people give a definition, twist this around to serve their own purpose, which is what the implication seems to be, from the media anyway, then that's their doing. But it doesn't make it right, does it? It doesn't make it right. Some of you ask about the question of fatwas. Okay? Let's talk about that subject a little bit. Fatwa means an Islamic ruling. Like you go to the judge and you say, Judge, Your Honor, he and I, we're talking about something here. We don't know. What's the bottom line? What is your fatwa about this? He has an opinion, I have opinion, maybe she has opinion, somebody has opinion. We want to know. What do you say? For anybody to give this kind of a fatwa or Islamic ruling, well, anybody can give it, but we're not going to accept it. Let's put it that way. I even heard a Christian by the name of Dr. John Esposito giving some fatwa last summer in the ISNA conference, and he's a Christian. So anybody can give them, but do you have to follow them? In order for it to be something that myself or any real self-respecting Muslim is going to follow, he's going to have something we call dalil, evidence, a proof. And he has to bring it. He has to bring his proof from the Quran or from the teachings of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Nothing else. That's the only thing we're going to accept, because the Quran tells us to take the teachings of Muhammad. So actually, these are one and the same. So if somebody come to me and said, you know, you have to go around with one red shoe on all the time, I'm ready. Sounds pretty cool, right? I mean, we could start a trend in a heartbeat. But if you tell me this is Islam and I have to do it, I'm going to say, where do you get that from? Where do you have this from? And if he goes to the Quran and he begins to show me that there's something about a shoe here, and he just takes one word about a shoe, and I'm going, hold it, ho. Where do you got that? And this did happen in the 1970s. Somebody came from some country over here and played with the Americans and told them this is Islam, that's Islam. And he played with something he called the magic number 19 in the Quran. He made up his own thing and he had a good time. And then it wound up saying it was a prophet, and somebody killed him, by the way. So this brings me to my next subject, which is going to be about deviation in Islam. But let's finish up the fatwa thing. Fatwa, plural, fatawa, Islamic rulings. If somebody has the authority to give this, and he bases it on the Quran and the teachings of the Sunnah or Muhammad, peace be upon him, then we're going to accept that as being right and righteous. But in order for him to reach that level, first things first, he has to have memorized the Quran in the Arabic language. He has to be a scholar of the Arabic language, classical Arabic language. These two things are very important because he can't have any understanding unless he knows. Next, he has to also have an understanding of what we call tafsir, or the explanation of Quran by the early scholars who took it from the early people who learned it from Muhammad. And meaning, what does this actually mean when it says, lakum dinukum waliya din? What does that mean exactly? Well, I might say this, you might say that if you know some Arabic language. But what did Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, say about that? Here's another example of this subject, and it happened so we know it. At the time when Omar, peace be upon him, may Allah be pleased with him, radiallahu anhu, when he was the Khalifa, they had a halaqah or circle. And there was a young boy there by the name of Ibn Abbas. The older ones who were there in the halaqah circle were kind of resentful that this boy has such a high position here. So they complained about it. Here's this kid sitting with us. I mean, you know, we got our deal going. So Omar, he said, tell me, and he asked the group, what does this mean? And he read to them from the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذ جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. Each one of them gave their opinion what it means, and they did it literally off the words, which says basically when the help of Allah comes and the victory, and you see the people entering into Islam in big droves and numbers, then hymn the praises of your Lord and turn to Him, ever turning to Him in repentance. Some said glorifying His name, some said something else. They're giving this kind of a meaning. When they all were done, look what he did. He asked Ibn Abbas. He said, stand up, tell him what it means. What did Allah mean when He sent this down? Look what the boy said. He said it means that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is going to die. Whoa! Whoa! How many of you heard this story before? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Because there are some things that you cannot say, well, the Quran said that, and I mean this, and you mean that, and what do you think? What do you get out of that? Well, my understanding is, we don't do that. The understanding we have is the understanding that Muhammad, peace be upon him, had. And he knew when this came that that was the signal of his death. Because the victory here implied was in nothing less than Mecca itself. Because that's when they entered straight into Mecca. They went to the Kaaba and they destroyed all 360 of those statues. Statues. For the benefit of those Muslims here that think Islam did not come to destroy statues, I beg to differ with you. Very definitely, Muhammad, peace be upon him, destroyed statues by his hand. And he ordered his companions to do the same. And he ordered one of his companions, Abu Bakr, I think. He ordered him, go and destroy this one big statue, which was Al-Uzza. And destroy it. This was a talking statue. People used to pray to it and they would say, oh, you know, talking statue. Have you heard about them? Some of them, they cry, weeping statues and things like this. Well, this is a trick. Because what happened? He went and he came back, he said, did you destroy it? He said, yeah. He said, no, you didn't. Go back again. He come back again. He said, did you destroy it? He said, yeah. He said, no, you didn't. Go back and break it up. And he broke it up, and a jinn came out of it. How many of you know what's a jinn? Yes, a female jinn. These are demons mentioned in the New Testament. If you know the one when Jesus went to the graveyard, and when he got up there to the graveyard, the one said, oh, you son of God, he said, who are you? He said, we are legions. How many of you remember this story out of the Bible? You never heard it? Okay, it's mentioned 3 times in 3 different texts in the New Testament talking about demons. These are jinn. They enter people and they enter statues. And that explains a lot of things called poltergeists and UFO. All of these are really coming from this. But it's another subject at another time. So this gives us some idea now. I'm putting a lot of the subjects of this together in one little talk here so that you can get a feel for this. But I'm not going to take anything from somebody just because he's got a big beard or a big turban on his head or a fancy gown or something like this. You're not going to buy that. If he tells me it's in the Quran, I'm going to go look, because most Muslims, even though they don't speak Arabic, they know enough Arabic to go look it up and say, does it say that? Where does he get it from? What is he basing that on? And if it's not something that, even then, if it's not something that doesn't sound right, we're not obliged to take it till we go to somebody, maybe more authority than this person, and get a confirmation on. Our Prophet, peace be upon him, told us inside of everybody there is something called a mufti, which means the one who can tell you, really, is this right or wrong? And everybody in this room, you have this and you know it. Because you've been in that position at some time. You know you started to do something, you said, You know your conscience when it told you, don't take that, that's not yours. Don't do this, that's not good. Well, nobody will know. No, but you know it's wrong. Okay, that's what we all have. So that should sum up a lot of the questions that I got over here. And again, I'll remind you that we can deal with some of these through our website by going to the email. You can also, when you're on the website, you can visit a lot of pages. Well, over 9,000 links on our website. And some of them are still working too, by the way. I'm also the webmaster, so the problems there are from me, by the way. If you have any complaints on that, write that to the same place, islamtoday@usa.com. I think we're pretty close to wrapping it up. You got something you want to do?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, you got 10 minutes to do it in. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah Kareem, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Honorable ulama ikram, respected brothers, elders, mothers and sisters, as Sheikh has introduced the topic to you, depression versus contentment. While the world continues to progress technologically, I swear by Allah, faster than its growth in technology, it is retrogressing morally and spiritually. We find ourselves being exposed to a society that has become so immoral. Like Sayyidina Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu said, مَعْرُوفُ زَمَانِنَا مُنْكَرُ زَمَانٍ قَدْ مَضَى وَمُنْكَرُهُ مَعْرُوفُ زَمَانٍ لَمْ يَأْتِ. Such deep words, food for thought. Sayyidina Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu said, مَعْرُوفُ زَمَانِنَا, the good of our times were the sins of the previous times. What you and I consider as noble, as pious, as righteous, was considered a sin, a vice, and transgression in the previous times. وَمَعْرُوفُ زَمَانِنَا مُنْكَرُ زَمَانٍ قَدْ مَضَى وَمُنْكَرُهُ مَعْرُوفُ زَمَانٍ لَمْ يَأْتِ. And what we consider as vice and as evil and as wrong today will be considered noble and pious in the time that is to come. That is why in Bukhari there is one commentary where one Sahabi addressing his companion said, إنكم لتعملون أعمالا هي أدق في أعينكم من الشعر كنا نعدها في عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من الموبقات. That, oh my companions, I see you perpetrating many crimes which you trivialize. I swear by Allah, in the time of Nabi alayhi salam, these were considered as the most destructive crimes. And as we draw closer to Qiyamah, this continues. So while the world progresses definitely in technology, like one scholar mentioned, while the world boasts that now we are traveling by air, forgetting not that while we are now traveling by air, we have also polluted the air of Allah with guna. So in mid-air, wine is being consumed, in mid-air, zina is taking place. Indeed, there is growth in technology, but coupled with that is the retrogressing in morals and values. While life seems to become easier theoretically, in theory when you analyze life today, we have such advanced modes of transport, such easy ways of communication. In theory, life seems easier than previous times, but practically life has become more challenging than the previous times. Tension, depression, and frustration has, wallah, become the order of the day. Happiness, joy, and prosperity is something of the past. May I repeat what I said? Tension, depression, and frustration has become the order of the day. Happiness, joy, and prosperity has become something of the past. Never mind becoming a victim to any tragedy, which perhaps might warrant depression. A person met in an accident, lost a beloved, lost his wealth, lost a job, some tragedy, some calamity, some catastrophe came in his way, which definitely warrants depression. Never mind the tragedies that, a person becomes a victim to any tragedy. The very fears that haunt the mind of an average man is sufficient depression. The very fears that haunt the mind of every individual that are ever lurking. I must never become poor. I must never be diagnosed of cancer. This must never happen. The fears that are ever lurking in the heart and the mind of every man is sufficient depression in the life of every person. Like the poet says, I wish you could understand Arabic. You can appreciate these couplets if you understand Arabic. He says, he presented in the surgery of a physician, سألت من الأطباء خبيرا ذات يوم مما شيبي. سألت من الأطباء خبيرا ذات يوم مما شيبي. فقال بلغموا. فقلت له على غير احتشام لقد اخطأت فيما قلت بلغموا. He says, I went to the doctor and I asked him, the doctor assessed me, I'm gone white. What is the reason? Mimma shaybi. Like it comes in the authentic ahadith that Nabi alayhi salam said, when Nabi alayhi salam was told, Shibta ya Rasulullah, O Nabi of Allah, you are aging, you are becoming white. Nabi alayhi salam said, Shayyabatni al-hudu wa akhawatuha. It is the frightening description of Qiyamah in Surah Hud, which makes my hair white. And we learn in the authentic ahadith that there were 20 strands of white hair on the blessed body of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And another poem comes to mind while I'm saying this here. The poet says, لنا خط وللأيام خط لنا خط وللأيام خط وبينهما مخالفة المداد فأكتبه سوادا في بياضي وتكتبه بياضا في سوادي. I wish you can understand Arabic. Really, it has to be understood in Arabic. The time says, the poet says, I have a pen and the time has a pen. The era in which we are living, it has a pen. And as we are talking, our time is just moving away. That is why Hassan Basri said regarding the Sahaba, أدركت أقواما كان أحدهم أشح على عمره منه على درهمه. That I sat in the company of Sahaba and I found them more possessive over their time than their wealth. I found them, they were more possessive. They clinged on to that. They were flexible with their money. They were not hard on their money, but they were very hard on their time. Nobody could take time from them. أدركت أقواما كان أحدهم أشح على عمره منه على درهمه. So the poet says, لنا خط, I have a pen and the time has a pen. وبينهما مخالفة المداد. The only difference is the ink. فأكتبه سوادا في بياضي. My pen has black ink. I write with black ink on white paper. And the time writes with white ink on black hair. فأكتبه سوادا في بياضي وتكتبه بياضا في سوادي. That is the difference. Nonetheless, he says, I asked the doctor examined me, why am I gone white? So he said, Balghamu, you have a lot of phlegm in your body. فقلت له على غير احتشام لقد اخطأت فيما قلت بلغم. Instantly I said, doctor, I respect your expertise. You need to understand Arabic to appreciate what has been said. I appreciate your expertise, but definitely I think this got nothing to do with phlegm. Balghamu, instead this is depression. This is the result of depression in my body. This is what has happened. Tap any person, let him pour his heart out to you. Every man is in crisis. إني رأيتك جالسا مستقبلي فعلمت أنك للهموم قرين. Oh my brother, I seen you sitting before me. The very gesture of your face indicated depression. هون عليك وكن بربك واثقا فأخو التوكل شأنه التهوين. Take life easy, calm down, relax. As in Australia they say, no worries. No worries, that's the term. I remember when we were there, I had to give a talk at a particular university. I met a man, he says, I asked him, where are you going? I said, I've got to go to the QUT, Queensland University of Technology. So greet him, how are you? No worries, you go straight, you come to a roundabout, you take a right, you get in straight, you come. I didn't know what the man was saying. No worries, هون عليك, relax, relax. وَكُمْ بِرَبِّكَ وَاثِقًا. And put your reliance on Allah. فَأَخُ التَّوَكُّلِ شَأْنُهُ التَّهْوِينُ. For verily the one that relies on Allah takes life easy. ترح الأذى عن نفسه في رزقه لما تيقن أنه مذمون. The only way to avert financial depression, the only way to avert and divert financial depression is to convince yourself that Allah is the sustainer. When you've convinced yourself that Allah is the sustainer, now the fluctuation in the currency, the fake predictions of the economists, the competitors in the market will not make a difference to you. So this is the modern day poverty, if we can put it that way. That in the midst of affluence there is no joy. In the midst of comfort and luxury there is absolutely no joy. This is the modern day poverty which stares at every person. And perhaps the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wasallam held the hand of Abu Dharr, and he said, Ya Aba Dharrin, atara anna kathrat al-mal huwa al-ghina, wa qillat al-mal huwa al-faqr. O Abu Dharr, do you consider excess wealth, excess of provisions as wealth, and lack of provisions as poverty? I said, O Nabi of Allah, that is the apparent definition of wealth and poverty. That if you have lot, you are successful, you are healthy, you are prosperous. And if you don't have, then you have a depressed life, you have a sick life. Nabi alayhi salam said, no, Abu Dharr, you have your facts muddled. Let me set the record correctly. As they say, just to put the record correctly. Nabi alayhi salam then said in the riwayat of Ibn Hibban, إِنَّمَا الْغِنَى غِنَى الْقَلْبِ وَمَنْ كَانَ الْغِنَى فِي قَلْبِهِ فَلَا يَضُرُّهُ مَا لَقِيَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. No, Abu Dharr, wealth in essence is the contentment of heart. Wealth in essence is the contentment of a heart, and no Niagara Falls and no Victoria Falls can give you that contentment that is divine from Allah. وَمَنْ كَانَ الْغِنَى فِي قَلْبِهِ. The one who has contentment in his heart, فَلَا يَضُرُّهُ مَا لَقِيَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Then no amount of calamities and tragedies will harm this man, will depress this man. Nothing in this world will depress this man. You see, today every man has a different perception of contentment. Every person feels, some feel that if I get married and I have a beautiful wife, that is the goal of my life. That is the aim, that is the ambition of my life. And I foresee my joy in that woman. Others feel if I pursue a degree, I graduate, I earn so much, and then that is my particular accomplishment and that is the pinnacle of my joy. Like they say, 4 people were traveling, or 3 people perhaps in a simple example. They were speaking different languages. One spoke English, one spoke Urdu, one spoke Arabic. Someone came and gave them $1. Now they had to split the dollar. What are they going to do with the dollar? The one that speaks Arabic, he said, Ana ashtari al-inab. Ana ashtari al-inab. I'm going to buy inab. Okay, the other one that speaks English, he said, no, I want to buy grapes. I want to buy grapes. I'm not buying inab. I'm buying grapes. The third one said, no, mujhe angur kharidna hai. I'm buying angur. He says, I don't know what's your angur. I don't know what's your inab. I want my grapes. So then came along one person who spoke all 3 languages. Like, they say, بِقَدْرِ لُغَاتِ الْمَرْءِ يَكْثُرُ نَفْعُهُ. بِقَدْرِ لُغَاتِ الْمَرْءِ يَكْثُرُ نَفْعُهُ فَتِلْكَ لَهُ عِنْدَ الْمُلِمَّاتِ أَعْوَانُ فَبَادِرْ إِلَى حِفْظِ اللُّغَاتِ مُسَارِعًا فَكُلُّ لِسَانٍ فِي الْحَقِيقَةِ إِنسَانُ. That the more languages a person speaks, the better it is for him. So this person said, you know what, I will resolve your problems. You give me that $1 and I will get your angur, your inab and your grapes for you. I'll do everything. He went, he bought a bunch of grapes and he came and gave it. He says, this is your angur, it is your grapes and it is your inab. So the expressions are different, but the common thing is peace. Every man is searching for happiness. Every person is searching for inner contentment. And wallah, Allah has not kept in the capacity of the things of this world. You take a child, you give him an item, he fancies it for a period of time and the next day he is tired. Allah hasn't kept in the capacity of this world anything. In the capacity of this world to satisfy this restlessness of man, this crave of man, this ego of man. We continue with the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَمَنْ كَانَ الْفَقْرُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. The one who has greed in his heart, the one who has contentment in his heart, nothing of this world, nothing. It is a perception that if you're healthy and you're wealthy, you are content. This is the deception and the delusion of the devil. Last year I had the opportunity to go to Malawi, which is the neighboring country from South Africa. The Quran Kareem was translated in the local vernacular language for the first time, and they had the launch of the Quran, and there was the opening of the masjid, so some scholars were invited from South Africa. I was also amongst those that were invited. We were there at the launch of the Quran in the local language, in the vernacular language. Thereafter we visited many madaris, and we were taken into some of the rural areas where literally people are living below the bread line. When I say below the bread line, in abject poverty, in literally abject poverty. We went to a particular location, and this particular scene, really caught my eye, and I thought I relate it to you. There was a small little hut, which was the house of this man. Safely I can say your laundry room is bigger than his entire house. Nearby there was a small well, there were some goats and some children were playing. It was extremely hot. There was no food, nothing, no fan, no aircon, nothing. This elderly aged man was sitting outside his particular hut in the heart of Africa, living in abject poverty. But that particular man had such a broad smile, and he transmitted such warmth that I swear by Allah, it left an indelible impression in my heart and my mind. And it left me thinking that really, what is wealth and what is poverty? Who is wealthy and who is poor? Who is content and who is depressed? A few years ago we were in Jordan. We were hosted by a very wealthy man. Subhanallah, Allah has given him such wealth. He filters his water 16 times before it comes out of the tap. He had spent in excess of $2 million on his garden. He received us at the airport, a breathtaking view, very scenic, mashallah. He owns more than 20 food outlets in the United States. And he received us, and what a beautiful atmosphere. We performed Maghrib namaz on his lawn. It's on one of the high mountains of Amman. It was really an impressive scene. But the engrossment and the engagement of that man was such, I did not cherish or admire or envy that man's wealth for a split second. And I kept on admiring the smile of this man living in abject poverty. What did the Nabi of Allah say? وَمَنْ كَانَ الْغِنَى فِي قَلْبِهِ. He who has contentment in his heart, فَلَا يَضُرُّهُ مَا لَقِيَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. No calamities of this world will depress him. You see, depression, Fir'aun is sitting on his throne. The vision was sown, someone seen the vision, يُولَدُ مَوْلُودٌ يَذْهَبُ مُلْكُكَ عَلَى يَدِهِ. That a child will be born and you will lose your kingdom at the hands of that child. The child is not yet born. Fir'aun is still governing. But scholars write from that day onwards, وَطَارَ نَوْمُهُ وَبَقِيَ فِرْعَوْنُ لَا يَطِيبُ لَهُ طَعَامًا وَلَا شَرَابًا. That was the end of food, drinks, happiness and joy. From that day onwards, imagine the child is not yet born. They haven't yet made the diagnosis of cancer. Doctors suspect there is cancer. That's the end of joy in the life of that man. How many people aren't they who own a lot of wealth, but because of sicknesses they have such restrictions that the dog in that house eats better food than the owner? The man for breakfast has a very restricted diet. For lunch he cannot have this, he cannot have that. The dog in that house eats better food. And this is what the world is chasing. This is what the world is advertising. This is what we have been brainwashed with and been exposed to. Look at that beautiful hadith in Bukhari Sharif. When there is contentment in the heart, food for thought in particular for our sisters. Ata ibn Abi Rubah says, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu tells me, Ala urika imra'atan min ahli al-Jannah. Should I not show you a woman of Jannat? I said, please do tell me. He said, هذه المرأة السوداء أتت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. You see this woman of Abyssinian origin? Come, I tell you a story about this woman. She one day came to Nabi alayhi salam. Look at the condition in her life. It does not mean when a man has contentment, when Allah has given him, that calamities will not come. No, Allah will give him the strength to react differently. He will not get emotional by situations. Divinely Allah will inspire him, and I will elaborate on what I'm saying. Money can buy you a house, like they say, money can buy a house but not a home. Money can buy you a bed but not sleep. Person can be sleeping, on water bed, as they say. Insomnia is a medical condition that's only growing in the world, deprived of sleep. And on the other hand, there is a beggar, a pauper, sleeping under the tree in mid-traffic. The people are driving, people are busy, engaged, and he's enjoying the divine sleep of Allah in the shade that Allah has provided. وَاللَّهُ جَعَلَ لَكُم مِّمَّا خَلَقَ ظِلَالًا. He appreciates the shade that Allah has given. And another man sitting in front of the ocean, having a beautiful view with his beloved wife on the third floor of that particular hotel, and he's tossing and turning and he cannot sleep. Where is then pleasure coming from? Look at this particular woman. She comes to Nabi alayhi salam. Ya Rasulullah, inni usra'u wa atakashaf. Oh Nabi of Allah, I suffer from epilepsy. Now what a fatal illness she is suffering. What is sickness? Now as the world harps upon it, that there's so many anti-aging products. You mustn't age, you mustn't be sick. There are so many sisters that are destroying their health just to look thin, just to look attractive, seductive, that I must look thin, I must look appealing, as this particular woman on this magazine and that magazine. Because I am made to believe that if I look thin, sweet, attractive and seductive, then I am successful and I am content. Yet that particular pill is destroying that woman. She is suffering, she's deprived of food. Like they say, the typical American mentality of dropping the levels of obesity is going to a particular shop, can I have a double cheesy burger and a Diet Coke? Why the levels of obesity are too high, so I'll have a Diet Coke with a double cheesy burger. So anyway, this woman comes to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Rasulullah, inni usra. Subhanallah, look at contentment. I swear by Allah, it comes divine from Allah. O Nabi of Allah, I suffer from epilepsy. And when I have these attacks, my satr is exposed. Could you perhaps make dua to Allah that Allah cures me? Now what a tragedy in a life. It warrants total depression. Subhanallah, what are the teachings of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? The Nabi of Allah, one was to lift his hands and instantly make dua and Allah will respond positively and cure the woman. But the Nabi of Allah gave her a choice. In shi'ti da'awtu Allah an yu'afik. Wa in shi'ti sabarti walakil jannah. You have one of two choices. If you so wish, I will make dua to Allah now. He will cure you instantly, permanently, totally. On the other hand, if you endure, persevere, and exercise patience, I promise you, Jannat is yours. Now, in today's terms, when a person understands that sickness means depression, it means medical expenses, it means burdening the family, it entails a host of other things. Naturally, a person is so desperate for cure, he'll do anything and everything. Another one, while I'm speaking about this, another hadith comes to mind. Aisha Fatima radiallahu anha comes home, she is hungry. Ali radiallahu anhu is hungry. What the world has painted as depression, and what Islam tells us with regards to contentment. There is absolutely no food. Now a person is living in difficulty, is some financial problems. Again, this warrants depression. You find today most of the circular degrees that a person pursues is in relation to his monetary return. Most of the things, a person is becoming a doctor, very few are those whose aim and whose ambition is to serve humanity. It might be a sideline, option, but the primary reason, the priority in pursuing that particular is the monetary returns. What will I get back? By giving so much, how much do I get back? These are the reasons why, because why? The perception is the day I have wealth, I am successful and I'm content. I am happy the day I have wealth. That is the end of sadness, depression. And that's apart from the depression which is as a result of guna, and I'm coming to that still. I swear by Allah, the greatest contributing factor to depression is guna. Ask that young boy who after he takes a pill and he's on a buzz and he's on cloud 9 and he's safe, floating somewhere else, as soon as he becomes sober, he goes through such depression that he's left with one of two options. Either he commits suicide or takes a pill again. There's no other choice in the life of that young boy. I personally have dealt with many youth involved in drugs. Perhaps while perpetrating the crime, he enjoys fake pleasure. But no sooner he becomes sober, he goes through such depression. My Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, prophesying the things of Qiyamah, a man will come to the grave of his brother, not to respect the deceased, not to come and convey thawab to him. Yatamarragu. He will then turn in the soil of the grave and he will say, Ya laytani kuntu makana sahiba hadha al-qabr. My brother, I envy you, you are gone. I promise you, I cannot bear the calamities of this world any longer. I wish I was beneath the soil and you were above the soil. In the midst of all the comforts that he has, Ala mawtun yuba'u fa ashtarihi fa hadha al-aishu ma la khayra fihi. Someone said, I wish, can you tell me someone is selling death? I want to buy death. I'm frustrated with life. I have come here with all the comforts, all the luxuries, all the affluence. Like in Urdu they say, ab to gabara ke ye kehte hai ke mar jayenge, mar ke bhi chain na paya to kidhar jayenge. Now in a fit of frustration you say, I wish I die, I wish I die, I wish I die. And then they speak of euthanasia, mercy killings. Ab to gabara ke ye kehte hai ke mar jayenge. You take any youngster to a rehabilitation. When he's been admitted in that particular rehab, the first thing they ask him as the symptoms of drugs, did the thought of suicide cross your mind? That's amongst the first things. This is nothing, these antidepressant tablets, they have antidepressant. I give this example, perhaps I share it with you. It's nothing, that is escapism. You are hiding the reality. You are disguising and camouflaging. You are not solving, you are not soothing, you are not unwinding, you are not relaxing. It's like a person went to a particular motor mechanic, he had a problem in his car. He says, you know what, as I'm driving there's this very strange and peculiar sound coming out and I can't trace the problem. So the motor mechanic had a look at the car, but he couldn't trace the problem. He says, you know what, I can't really find anything, but I got a way out. I can solve the problem for you. If it really bothers you while driving, just put your radio a bit louder. If the noise bothers you, just put your radio, and I promise you your problem will be solved without any money. I won't take a cent from you. You just turn the volume a bit louder and that's it. I swear by Allah, that is antidepressant tablets. You have solved no problem. You have only camouflaged it, you've disguised it. The problem remains. Become sober and it's worse than what it was. That is antidepressant tablets. The riwayat of Bayhaqi, Nabi alayhi salam said, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is the cure of 99 ailments, the least of which is depression. The least of which is depression. Inna sadaqat as-sir tutfi'u ghadab al-rabbi. Let me complete that hadith. Fatima radiallahu anha comes home. There is no food. Now what happens to a man today again? The perception is that when there isn't wealth, when there isn't food, when there's sickness, these things warrant depression. In Western circles, what happened to people in this situation? So anyway, Ali radiallahu anhu tells Fatima radiallahu anha that go to your father and ask him if there is some food. Fatima radiallahu anha comes to the house of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. How did they react to situations? Sometimes it's just the change of attitude. It's not the change of condition, it's the change of attitude that brings pleasure to life. Fatima radiallahu anha comes and knocks on the door. Ayman radiallahu anha is seated by Nabi alayhi salam. From the very tone of the knock, Nabi alayhi salam said, Inna hadha ladaqqu Fatima. This is my Fatima knocking at the door. وَلَقَدْ أَتَتْنَا فِي سَاعَةٍ مَا عَوَّدَتْنَا أَن تَأْتِينَا فِي مِثْلِهِ. And my Fatima has come on a strange time. Normally my Fatima will not visit me on this time. Definitely there is something that is bothering my daughter. She enters the house of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Which father wants to see his daughter coming home with hunger? And Allah forbid that don't happen. If that comes and happens to her, how would we react to the situation? We will go through depression that I don't know what and where we will go. Look at how the Nabi of Allah reacts. She sits down, she then praises Nabi alayhi salam, durood and salawat on the noble personality. And then, she in a very subtle way, she indicates, in a very modest way, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, هذه الملائكة طعامها التهليل والتسبيح والتحميد فما طعامنا. O Nabi of Allah, the angels glorify Allah perpetually, satisfy their needs by worshipping Allah. Myself, your son-in-law, and your grandchildren have absolutely no food. Could you perhaps make some arrangements? Do you know what an emotional meeting that is? Can any father contain himself? Allah, don't ever let that happen to us. To find your daughter coming in this way, to see your grandchildren hungry, the Nabi of Allah's eyes become moist. He comes into emotions, but he calms himself down, subhanallah, divinely contentment. Allah inspires it. The Nabi of Allah says, "O Fatima," and this is what the Nabi of Allah told that woman, and I want to mention, وَمَنْ كَانَ الْغِنَى فِي قَلْبِهِ, the one who has contentment in his heart, no worldly condition will depress him. Conditions will come upon him. Conditions will come upon him. Like they say, having Allah on your side does not mean sailing on the ocean with no waves. It doesn't mean that. But having Allah on your side means sailing in such a ship which no storm can sink. That is what it means. It doesn't mean you will not have storms. You will have storms, you will have waves. But when you have Allah on your side, no storm will sink that ship. No storm will sink that ship. That is divine contentment that Allah will give. And nothing of the world can give you this. They have tried anything and everything to get that happiness. And in the end, there's nothing. When the wealth of Persia came into Medina Munawwara, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu started crying. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf said, "Inna hadha la yawm sururin." Amir al-Mu'mineen, wealth, affluence, prosperity. This is a day of triumph. This is a day of victory. This is a day of joy. Such wealth we anticipate Allah has given us. Why are you mourning when Allah is opening the days of victory? But look at the far-sightedness of Umar. How deep his sight and how far his vision was. He said, "Inna hadha al-mal lam yu'tihi Allahu qawman illa alqa Allahu baynahum al-adawata wal-baghda." Study the history of affluence. What did Sayyidina Umar say? Study the history of affluence. Whenever it came to a nation, it divided them. Whenever it came to a nation, it snatched joy from them. It took inner happiness. There were times when one person were working and 10 people were living and everybody was happy. Today 10 people are working, end of the day not one is happy. End of the month not one is happy. This is the modern day poverty. In the midst of all comforts and luxuries, there is no happiness, there is no joy. The object of nikah is that when you look at your wife, it must put an end to depression and not start depression. هو الذي جعل لكم, the Quran says, لِتَسْكُنُوا, that when you come home and the spouses meet, that must be the end of depression. The fatigue, the frustration that the husband experienced throughout the day. The tiredness, the wife had an agenda, the children, the house, the domestic work, so many duties. Both had a long, tiring day that exhausted the respective partners. The Quran says the fundamental object of your marriage is that when you meet, it must put an end to depression. If you are meeting with your spouse and it is starting depression, I swear by Allah, even if you live in a palace and in affluence, the very fundamental object of that marriage is forfeited. هو الذي جعل لكم من بيوتكم سكنا. Allah says the object of your house is it must put an end to tiredness and fatigue. Today no man can sit at home. They just want to go out. Come weekend run. Come holiday go. If your house can't give you comfort, then better than that is a hut. The Quran says the object of your house is it must bring inner joy. inner satisfaction that there's no bounds, no restrictions, no formalities. You can relax yourself. You can sit as you want to. You are free and at liberty. If your house cannot contain you, cannot attract you, in English they say the one that doesn't find joy at home will find it nowhere. The one that does not find joy at home will find it nowhere. So the Nabi of Allah then tells his daughter, "O Fatima, if you want, I will give you 5 sheep which someone brought and gave to me. I give it to you. You take it home, slaughter it and eat it. And if you want, علمتك 5 كلمات علمنيهن جبريل. Or otherwise I teach you 5 words, 5 ayat, 5 du'as, which if you recite will soothe you, satisfy you, your hunger, your depression, your pain, your agony, today, tomorrow, when your father is around and when he's gone." We learn from these ahadith that there is a price for this divine joy. There was nothing wrong for the Nabi of Allah to say, "Here, my daughter, take the sheep also and take the du'as also." But he didn't do that. He said, "Take the sheep or the dua, one of the two." Bearing in mind, this is a father who sees his own daughter hungry. There is no words of any language that can translate the emotions of such a father. And Fatima, whom my Nabi loved the most, "Man ahabbaha faqad ahabbani, wa man aadaha faqad aadani." Whoever loves my Fatima loves me. Whoever dislikes my Fatima dislikes me. Hassan and Hussein, the coolness of my eyes. She said, "O Nabi of Allah, I will prefer those 5 words. I will prefer it." Nabi alayhi salam says, "Okay, then say after me, O my daughter, Ya awwal al-awwalin, wa ya akhir al-akhirin, wa ya rahim al-masakin, ya dhal quwwati al-mateen, ya arham al-rahimin." She takes this, she reads this, she goes home, she returns to her husband. Imagine your wife send you with a shopping list and you come back with a dua. Never mind, you just come back with a different item and you know what happens. Like they say, this particular woman, she came home, husband, he brought tomatoes for his wife, came and he left it there in a packet. She says, "No, I don't want this one. I want the one in the box, man, the one in the wooden box." He said, "Oh, okay, no problem." He went outside, he found a wooden box, took it, put the tomatoes inside, knocked some nails, brought it home. He says, "Yeah, this is the one I wanted." Anyway, she comes with dua. Now what I'm saying, these are situations that bring depression to us. I don't know, has the tragedies of our times become more, or has our forbearance levels dropped more? Petty things today, trivial things, a man goes through depression. And immediately, he needs to do this, he needs to go, he's back onto his drugs, he's doing this, he's doing trivial things, and a person cannot contain himself. Petty issues, and a man is divorcing his wife. And subhanallah, look at this condition. Husband, wife and children, all are hungry. She comes home, she reads the du'as to her husband. The husband is happy. The children, they soothe the children. The children are too young, too tender to fathom, to appreciate. But how Allah gave contentment to Fatima through this dua, Fatima's hunger was the price of this contentment. I said it on a full stomach, my brother, you heard it on a full stomach. Neither I can appreciate what this dua can do, neither you can appreciate. I and you both will have to collectively knock the door of Fatima to understand the hidden tranquility that Allah has kept in this dua. Neither I nor you, the tranquility that Allah has kept, and how soothing this dua is, that we'll have to ask Fatima. Her hunger and the hunger of her husband and her children collectively was the result of the divine tranquility that Allah provided to her. Like they say, this person was sitting and relaxing. So someone said, "Get up and do something good in your life, man. What are you wasting your life for?" He said, what must I do? He says, "Go work and make some money, man. And then get married. And then, well, you can perhaps go for a vacation. And then what? Sit by the beach and relax." He said, "Well, I'm doing that now." I'm doing that now. Why must I go through all those procedures? Must I go through 5 procedures? I'm relaxing now. In ana lam afuz bi muradi sa'yin wa kam min hasratin tahta turabi. If I did not accomplish my material goal in life. What's the harm? You died as a doctor, I died as an ignorant man. But then we entered through one door. What's the first? Well, you made it, well and good. I didn't make it, well, what's the difference? End of the day, who is happy in his life? Who has divine happiness and joy? Do some soul searching and ask yourself. The Nabi of Allah asks this woman, if you want, I make dua to Allah, Allah will cure you. And if you want, you make sabr and Jannah. Now she is suffering epilepsy. Subhanallah, contentment. She says, oh Nabi of Allah, if you promise that I have patience, Jannat is mine, then I will prefer living with this sickness. And I will prefer dying with the sickness. As long as you can confirm Jannat is mine. However, I am very conscious of my modesty. And when I have my epilepsy attacks, my sitr is unveiled and it is exposed. I want you to make that amount of dua that in the future attacks that I have, my sitr mustn't be unveiled. There was a time when a woman was conscious of her morality in the midst of sickness, which perhaps anyone can debate as she been excused in the sense of the sickness that she has. The Nabi of Allah made dua that in the future attacks that she has, her sitr mustn't be exposed. But Allah gave her contentment on her sickness. Allah gave her contentment on her sickness. She lived with epilepsy, she died with epilepsy. And on the tongue of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, her abode in Jannat was confirmed. Hence it is a perception, it is a deception, it is a delusion that if I am healthy and I am wealthy, I am successful and I am content. هي القناعة فالزمها تعش ملكا لو لم يكن منها إلا راحة البدن. It is contentment. Grab onto it. I swear by Allah, if you have it, you're a king without a throne also. وانظر لمن ملك الدنيا بأجمعها. And look at those who own the entire world. Those who own the entire world. هل راح منها بغير القطن والكفن. Those that went, they all went in the same way, nothing more. Like in Arabic they say, لا تتفكر في ثلاثة أشياء. Don't think about three things, this will add to your depression. فَيَكْثُرُ هَمُّكَ وَغَمُّكَ وَيَزِيدُ فِي حِرْصِكَ. This is the formula of depression. This is the formula of getting depressed. And today inevitably every man has this in his mind. لَا تَتَفَكَّرْ فِي فَقْرِكَ. Don't think about the day I won't have money. The day I lose my job. The day this happens to me. Don't plan. Don't fear. Don't sit and, think about the moments where I won't have wealth. Why? This will only increase your greed and it will add to your anxiety and it will multiply your depression. Number two, لا تتفكر في طول البقاء. Do not plan a long future in life. Allah alone knows the destiny of every man. But if a person plans a long future, then he will have to amass much more because he'll say at the age of 70 I need this, at 80 I'll need this, at 90 I'll need this because I'm around till 100. Like تؤمل في الدنيا, these couplets are so beautiful. تؤمل في الدنيا طويل ولا تدري إذا جن ليل هل تعيش إلى الفجر. فكم من صحيح مات من غير علة وكم من عليل عاش دهرا إلى دهر. وكم من فتى يمسي ويصبح آمنا وقد نسجت أكفانه وهو لا يدري. تؤمل في الدنيا الطويل. Oh my brother, you are very ambitious in this world. Yet when the night sets in, you don't know if you will see dawn or not. ولا تدري إذا جن ليل هل تعيش إلى الفجر. فكم من صحيح مات من غير علة. There are so many healthy people who died without any apparent reason. وكم من عليل عاش دهرا إلى دهر. And there are so many people who are fatally ill yet lived for decades. وكم من فتى يمسي ويصبح آمنا وقد نسجت أكفانه وهو لا يدري. And there are so many youth, so the concluding couplets, there are so many youth who live in comfort and affluence, knowing not that the coffin in which he will be wrapped has been prepared and the hole in which he will be lowered has been dug. وَكَمْ مِنْ فَتَنْ. He gets up proud and arrogant, knowing not that my grave is being dug at this moment. So do not plan a long future. Allah alone knows this will add to your depression. As I was mentioning, brothers, the greatest contributing factor to depression, Allah's qasam, is guna. There is nothing that will depress a man more than sin. Nabi alayhi salam says in the hadith, Inna sidqa tamanina. Today we find a person, we are living in such a promiscuous society. Such promiscuity, it is inconceivable. I was listening to a radio program back home in South Africa, and they were talking about, having an affair with strange woman. And this particular, I don't know if you can call him a human, but anyway, he phones in, and he speaks about his experiences, and he says, well, I had relation with 1,000 women. People actually started calculating his age, and they even made a joke, and they said, I think you possess a weapon of mass destruction. That is a weapon of mass destruction. 1,000 women? Such a promiscuous society we are living in. And there is no joy. Allah's qasam, the greatest thing is sin. Nabi alayhi salam said, Inna sidqa tamanina. Listen to the words of Nabi alayhi salam. Honesty provides tranquility. Honesty in your dealings, in your interaction, provides divine happiness, joy, satisfaction. Now extend the realms of that hadith. Broaden the scope of that hadith. Let's extend the explanation. Explore that hadith. Honesty, piety, integrity, loyalty, fidelity provides divine happiness, joy, and satisfaction. And Nabi alayhi salam says lies, sin, vice provides restlessness, uneasiness, depression, frustration. Ask a man pursuing an unlawful relation. My wife mustn't get hold of my phone. Whoever is at the door, run quickly. I better see who's coming. He's constantly, he's on his nerves all the time. Nobody must come to know my wrong. The depression that results out of that sin. The nature of the devil is, and this in particular I want to address to my youth. The Quran speaks about this here. That when the devil provokes a person towards a sin, and he paints the picture that you make zina and you will be happy. You take the spill and that will be the end of pain in your life. And that is it. كمثل الشيطان إذ قال للإنسان اكفر كمثل الشيطان إذ قال للإنسان اكفر فلما كفر قال إني بريء منك إني أخاف الله رب العالمين فكان عاقبتهما أنهما في النار خالدين فيها وذلك جزاء الظالمين. The similitude of the devil when he incites and provokes you to a sin. Now when a devil provokes you to a sin, then he plans the sin for you. He also answers all the possible leak outs of the sin. That if you come late, what you'll tell your wife? No, you can tell her you got delayed at work. On the way, if this happened, all the apparent falls and loopholes that perhaps could be a setback, the devil answers everything. Instantly the mind is running. The devil is flowing. The sin is vivid before him. He's got a choice, either he does it or not. It looks very tempting, very appealing, very convincing, if I do it, this is what I actually need in my life. It will be the end of this depression and tiredness and fatigue and whatever else as it is. A beautiful massage, by gentle hands. What more do I need? So the devil provokes him up. And the devil says, do it, and I'm with you, all the way. And look here, after all, when the brothers of Yusuf intended killing Yusuf, then immediately at that time, and I'm going to tell you something very important, listen to what I got to say, brothers. At that particular moment, the devil told them, وَتَكُونُوا مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. That you commit this act, you kill your brother out of jealousy. Out of jealousy, kill your brother, get rid of him. يَخْلُ لَكُمْ وَجْهُ أَبِيكُمْ. The focus of your father will then be exclusive on you. And after the sin, after all, Allah is forgiving. If you won't commit sins, who will Allah forgive? Scholars explain, to think of the mercy of Allah prior to committing a sin. To think of the mercy of Allah prior to committing a sin is like saying, burn yourself. I've got an ointment for burnt fingers, so burn yourself. I bought this ointment. If I'm not going to burn myself, who's going to use this ointment? So let me burn myself. I bought it here in case something happens, so let me burn. That is not the time to reflect on the mercy of Allah. Scholars explain, if a person ponders over the mercy and the forgiveness, the kindness and the tolerance, the respite and the clemency of Allah, prior to perpetrating a sin, his minor sin will become a major sin. That is what will happen. Oh, my Allah is so forgiving, I don't need to just look at this woman, I can have zina with her. When my Allah can forgive so much, let me satisfy myself totally. That is not the time to look at how merciful Allah is. After you have perpetrated, and for some reason or the other, we are humans, we succumb to the evil forces within us. At times it happens, we do succumb. We give in. We don't know why we committing it, why we perpetrating it. But for some reason we succumb to that evil force. After the sin, yes, reflect over the mercy of Allah. Do not despair. But never to think of the mercy of Allah prior to committing a sin. That's not the time. So the devil plans everything, and he reminds you of how forgiving Allah is also. And he promises you do this. فَلَمَّا كَفَرْ, when you make kufr, when you make zina, when you take that pill, and after you become sober, such depression engulfs your heart. What does the Quran say? وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. The support, the encouragement, the person standing with you and provoking you with the devil, as soon as you perpetrate, he withdraws. The Quran says, خَنَّاسِ مِنْ شَرِّ الْوَسْوَاسِ الْخَنَّاسِ. Khannas, oh Allah, I seek your evil from the sneaking whisperer who comes, sneaks, withdraws, sneaks, withdraws. So after you've perpetrated the crime, he withdraws totally. I'm not with you. Now you do what you, inni akhafullah, I got nothing to do with you. Now you, tough luck to you, my friend. You did it, you suffer it. The only way I can join you again is if you go back to that woman. If you take the pill again, I stand with you. Hence, you will see a person committed a crime to satisfy himself. One after the other. He went deeper and deeper, deeper. You know, like they have that bungee jumping, you flow one way. He goes deeper and deeper into that sin, and there's no way he's coming back. Life looks so dark for him, there's no way out. In the battle of Badr, Shaitan came to Abu Sufyan in the form of Suraqa as the leader of the tribe of Kinana, and he told him, وَإِذَا زَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ وَقَالَ لَا غَالِبَ لَكُمُ الْيَوْمَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَإِنِّي جَارٌ لَكُمْ. I am with you. Don't worry, I will support you, I will encourage you, I will help you, you will defeat the Muslims. فَلَمَّا تَرَاءَتِ الْفِئَتَانِ. But when reality stared and the two armies met with one another, نَكَسَ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ, as is the nature of the devil, he withdraws and he fled the battle. So Abu Sufyan asked him, "Oh Suraqa, where are you? You promised me, you encouraged me, you motivated me." قال إني, what did he say? نكس على عقبيه وقال إني بريء منكم إني أرى ما لا ترون إني أخاف الله. No, I can see divine angels coming. I've got nothing. You involved, you suffer the consequences. So that is the result of depression that will come as guna. It will never come to an end. And scholars write, worse than that sin is four things. أربع بعد الذنب شر من الذنب الاستصغار والاستبشار والإغرار. After committing that sin, to consider it as trivial is worse than the sin. After committing the sin, to rejoice over the sin. That you rejoice over the calamity you have done, over the sin you have perpetrated. Nabi alayhi salam says in the hadith, كُلُّ أُمَّتِي مُعَافًا إِلَّا الْمُجَاهِرِينَ. Allah is prepared to forgive every person, with the exception of those that sin openly. With the exception of those that sin openly. And amongst those that are guilty of sinning openly are people who sin by night secretly. They sin by night, وَقَدْ بَاتَ يَسْتُرُهُ رَبُّهُ. And Allah conceals the man's sin. He does a sin, commits zina, takes a pill, does whatever wrong. And then in the morning he gets up and he doesn't rest until he doesn't unveil the veil of Allah. And he goes and says, I enjoyed this woman and I had this wine to bring this pleasure. Such a man has committed a crime which is unpardonable in the eyes of Allah. So contentment comes from Allah. It comes on the obedience of Allah. Let me explain to you the incident. I don't know what is my time allocation. I think I just got to worry about my flight and that's about it. But anyway, Let me explain to you an incident. When Allah wants to give peace in the battle of Uhud, you see, it's got nothing to do with wealth. It's got nothing to do with health. In fact, the ayah that I recited that I really want to explore, we haven't started. And that is what Allah says, whoever will obey Allah, Allah promises a good life. What is the definition of a good life? It's the perception that it's a healthy and a wealthy life. Let's define. Let's have a common definition of a good life. And on the other hand, Allah says, whoever disobeys Allah, Allah will give him a narrowed life. The apparent life that the kuffar have is wealth, affluence, comfort, fame, luxury. And yet the Quran says every kafir has a narrowed life. And the believers, Allah says, those who obey Allah, they will have a good life. The most deserving for this good life is the galaxy of the prophets and the noble companions of Nabi alayhi salam, because the quality of iman and a'mal salihah was found in them to the highest extent. Nobody could have this more than them. And hence we do not find health and wealth common amongst all the prophets. At times perhaps it could define a good life, but it doesn't necessarily entail the total definition of a good life. Perhaps Allah gives it to some. Allah gave it to Sulaiman alayhi salam. What a kingdom, what a dominion, what a vast empire Allah had given him. Sayyidina Ayyub alayhi salatu was salam. Scholars write two things define a good life and a content. This is the definition of a good life which Allah promises. The first is that whatever situation comes in your life, Allah gives you the ability to focus on the reward promised in that challenge in Akhirah. What does Allah give you? That this condition has come upon you, like I spoke about Fatima, I spoke about radiallahu anha and that woman. A challenge comes on you. The definition of a good life is Allah enables you, Allah empowers you, Allah enriches you. This is not something that I can say or you can purchase. This is divinely inspired. Allah enables you to focus. That this is the challenge, this is the calamity, this is on me in my life. This is what my Allah has kept for me in Akhirah. And the second thing that defines a good life is that Allah gives you contentment. Now let's just briefly run through the life of Ayyub alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah had given him health, wealth, comfort, luxury, affluence. You name it and he had it. 80 years of total prosperity. Thereafter Allah decided to test him. Allah tested him in such a way, Allah took everything. Allah took all his farms, all his orchards, everything burnt away. The roof of his house, and this is authentic narrations, the roof of his house collapsed, causing all the occupants of his house that were his 14 children to die instantly. A person loses one child and never recovers. The trauma of it never recovers. He or she is never the same human onwards. 14 children he loses at one instance. He loses all his farms, and that's not all. He develops such a sickness that he has ulcers on his entire body. The only pillar of support that he had was his wife. And as I mentioned, the fundamental object of marriage is to put an end to depression and not to start depression. The Quran says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. The primary reason behind marriage is that it puts an end to depression, it puts happiness, joy, solace and bliss. And by virtue of the bond of marriage, Allah promises two: love and mercy. Love and mercy. بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Scholars write, generally love translates itself in the initial stages of the marriage. قِيلَ الْمَوَدَّةِ لِلشَّابَّ وَالرَّحْمَةِ لِلْعَجُوزِ. And mercy for the respective partners often translates in the latter part of the marriage. In the initial stages, it's more motivated by love and lust. So anyway, the pillar of support for him was his wife. His wife was the granddaughter of Yusuf alayhi salam. وَقَدْ رَافَقَتْ هَذِهِ الْمَرْأَةُ حَيَاةَ نِعْمَتِهِ وَصِحَّتِهِ وَزَمَنَ بُؤْسِهِ وَبَلَائِهِ فَكَانَتْ فِي الْحَالَيْنِ مَعَ زَوْجِهَا شَاكِرَةً صَابِرَةً. This woman seen the era of prosperity. When things are good, then the partners, oh, wonderful husband, wonderful. What more to complain? Why? Because life is prosperous, everything is going well. But when difficulties comes, when challenges sets in, now this is the time to support your partner. More than often in Western circles, these marriages dissolve. Why? Because there are challenges. But look at through this bond. When Allah gives contentment in the midst of difficulties, what joy there is. Like, subhanallah, you know, they say in Arabic, أهل الليل في ليلهم أَلَذُّ مِنْ أَهْلِ اللَّهْوِ فِي لَهْوِهِمْ. أَهْلُ اللَّيْلِ فِي لَيْلِهِمْ أَلَذُّ. Allah's qasam, the joy that people derive in disturbing their sleep, and making wuzu in cold water, and enjoying the privilege of communicating with Allah in the dead of night, is much greater and much more than that young boy who's sitting on the lap of a beautiful, seductive, strange woman in the heart of a club with a bottle of wine in his hand. My brother, you have tasted the fake pleasure. You've seen how it has deceived you. I call you in this gathering and I invite you and I implore you. I introduce you to divine pleasure. I introduce you to spiritual pleasure. Wallah, there is such pleasure in salah. A time, may Allah favor you with it, one and all. that moment comes in your life, Allah's qasam. I don't want to sit and, it's not something I want to mention. Where you will go in sajda, and I promise you, you will derive such pleasure. Allah's qasam, in His control is my life. You won't able to lift your head up. May Allah give it to you, say Ameen. I promise you, brothers, I can tear and say it. There are those moments which Allah gives. رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا. One is you crave for a woman, you crave for a pill, you crave for a sin, and one is you crave for Allah. It's not even a correct term and phrase to use. It has filthy connotations, crave. But you love Allah, and you sit in sajda, and you feel the presence of your Allah, and you feel that closeness to Allah, that wallah, I swear by Allah, you can't lift your head up. You just cannot. It's like you're stuck. There's something between you and your Creator. You'll forget that fake pleasure. Ahlul layli fi laylihim. Aladhu min ahli lahwi fi lahwihim. It comes in the Hasha of Tafsir Uthmani, this quotation, that the joy of those that obey Allah and their pleasure. Imam Yusuf Rahmatullah Alayhi used to say, if the kings knew the pleasure we got in reading kitabs, they would throw their kingdom and they would study kitabs. They would abandon. I often have this, and I share this as a sense of joy. When you study in a kitab at times till late, and you come across some new point, some new hadith, something that you could perhaps convey, it's such joy. I don't know how to express it. Where you've discovered a new point, a new tafsir, a new commentary. You've arrived at a new conclusion. And it's midnight and everyone is sleeping. And subhanallah, you come to a conclusion and you deduce some point. It is a pleasure which I cannot translate in words. So what happens to Ayyub alayhi salam? The pillar of support was his wife. And she stands by his side. She stood in the days of prosperity as well as the days of difficulty. But as life continued, 7 years of difficulty, Ayyub alayhi salam, the sickness took a toll on her. We often sympathize on a person that is sick. We forget to sympathize with those living with a sick person. At times they need more sympathy than the sick person. What about those that are living with a sick person? So it started taking a toll on her. 7 years lapsed. She comes to her husband. She says, don't you think it's high time you make dua to Allah that now He cures you and once again restores your health, and we can see prosperity again. The tunnel is dark, it's raining, it's pouring, life is narrowing upon us. Don't you think perhaps if Allah can open up things in our life and we have a more brighter future? But this is a Nabi of Allah. He asked his wife, Kam labithtu fir raha. Oh my wife, how long did we enjoy health and prosperity? So she said, 80 years, 8 decades. Kam labithtu fil bala. How long did we live in difficulty, and how long am I sick, and how long is it since we lost our children? So she said, it's 7 years, if I recall correct, since this difficulties came in our life. So Sayyidina Ayyub said, Ama astahi an atlub min Allahi raf'a bala'i wa ma qadaytu fihi muddata rakha'i. I feel ashamed that when my Allah has given me 80 years of prosperity and my Allah has only tested me for 7 years, I don't have the guts, nor do I think my situation justifies me asking Allah. 80 years of prosperity, if Allah tests me with difficulty for 80 years, and my days of adversity is in proportion to my days of prosperity, then perhaps I will take the courage of asking Allah. But until 80 years don't lapse, I'm not going to make an attempt to ask Allah. In the midst of sickness, but he's content. He's totally happy. There's divine happiness. In the battle of Uhud, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had posted 50 archers. and he told them, you guard that mountain, right? 50 archers. And the Sahaba were moving in the battle, and Allah Ta'ala was giving them victory. And as Allah was giving them victory, these 50 Sahaba felt that, well, everybody is engaged in the spoils of the war, let us also go for the spoils of the war. And they shifted from the command of the Nabi of Allah, they left their post and they went headlong. وَعَصَيْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ وَتَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ وَعَصَيْتُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ مِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِيدُ الدُّنْيَا وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِيدُ الْآخِرَةِ. As soon as they left their post, the kuffar seen the unguarded pass, and they launched an attack from the rear. They launched an attack from the rear. They penetrated the ranks. They got hold of Mus'ab. I'm not going to debate what is correct, but anyway, I will. As in, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. So, can you imagine the situation? It warrants total depression. The circulation of the assassination of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, apparent victory turning into failure. You see people that are fans of any soccer and cricket, when they lose that match, what happens to them? People can't sleep. Some people that are watching, they want to break the screen on the TV. The depression that people go through. They become so obsessed. I don't know if the word obsessed justifies what attachment people have with these games and their fans. And that fan doesn't know you, nor does he know about your existence, for whom you're giving your life. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave his entire life for you, and you still feel ashamed to reflect his teachings? His night and day was one. He cried for me and you. In Mi'raj it was you and I, the male and the females of this ummah. And yet you suffer a complex looking like a believer? In the midst of the ferocious battle, where Sahaba lost their composure, the Quran says, ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن بَعْدِ الْغَمِّ أَمَنَةً نُعَاسًا يَغْشَى طَائِفَةً مِّنكُمْ وَطَائِفَةٌ قَدْ أَهَمَّتْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ. In the midst of the battle, while this happened, Allah says, I send down divine sleep. Hazrat Zubair radiallahu anhu says, we were holding our swords and we fell off to sleep in the battle. Subhanallah. When Allah wants to give it, in the midst of the ferocious battle, staring at the kafir, while the sword is in you and they fall off to sleep, and your man sitting in the comfort of the best of luxury, he cannot sleep. He says, and I can hear, while we sleeping, the sword is falling off my hand. And I can hear the munafiqeen saying, هَلْ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَمْرِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ هَلْ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَمْرِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. You see, contentment comes from Allah. Two people are sleeping on one bed, in one room, in one house, partnership. One has it, one Allah has snatched it away. The munafiqeen were also in this battle, but they came with ulterior motives. They also seen this here. But this divine sleep and slumber only came on the believers. And Allah deprived the munafiqeen of it, because their participation in the battle was with ulterior motives. Hence, the thing I'm stressing and harping from is that this contentment comes divine from Allah, and it comes on total adherence and total compliance to the dictates of Shariat. So what happens? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud says, "An-nu'asu fil qitali min Allah, wan-nu'asu fis salati min ash-shaytan." That sleep in the battle is a sign of victory and is from Allah. And sleep in salah is from shaitan. You fall off to sleep, don't think that is, divine tranquility coming from, Like one brother told me, in salah, a person is busy planning haram. He's owing someone money. He's planning how he's going to not pay his creditors. He thinks up a plan and then he says, Subhanallah, namaz is so wonderful. Allah gave me such a thought. Allah gave me such a thought in salah. One brother told me, he says, Maulana, I have a problem. I said, what's your problem? He says, in salah, I think of my wife a lot. So I told him, brother, you are lucky. Most of the people think of other people's wives. You lucky, carry on. I said, Wallah, you are lucky. And I say it again. Wallah, I say it again. That's not the ideal thing. You should be thinking of Allah. But if in salah you think of your own wife, you're a lucky man today. Ask 80%, they are not thinking of their own wife. They're thinking of strange woman. If you think of your own wife, Mubarak to you in your thoughts. Wish you well in your endeavors. Allah gave them sleep. It was a period of time, and he says, and then we got up. We got up, we had our act together. We had our composure, and once again we launched an attack. Hence, my brothers, in the midst of such challenges, Allah gave them peace. Let me come with the incident of Ayyub alayhi salam, and we bring it to the culmination. Ayyub alayhi salatu was salam. This is what happens. That in this situation, 7 years pass, it continues. After a period of time, it comes to 13 years. On the athar of Anas radiallahu anhu. One day a devil comes. Again, what are the options being presented? Take this and you'll be happy. Drive this car. And you know the advertisements, the ideal couple, husband and wife with broad smiles and a child walking through a marketplace. And you know, the clothing is so beautiful, they both are slim and attractive. Such a beautiful, you know, no problems. What a unique, ideal picture. That couple doesn't exist but on pictures. There's no couple like that in life. So anyway, the devil came to the wife of Ayyub alayhi salatu wasalam in a disguised form, in a form of a doctor. And she says, I will cure your husband. Again, what temptations there are to satisfy you. You got this bank balance, you got this bank offer, you got this loan, you can do this with your money, you can go to this place for holiday and vacation, and it's so soothing and it's so nice and so promising. So the devil came, and the devil told the wife of Ayyub alayhi salam that I will cure your husband. The only thing I need is that after I have cured him, you must acknowledge me. Nothing more. You must say, I really appreciated you that you have cured my husband. Perhaps given the desperation of this woman, she did not fully fathom the implications of this statement, and she said, okay, if that's the case, I'll do it. You know, I'm desperate for cure. When a person is desperate for cure, he will travel anywhere and do anything. And many a times we don't realize we step outside the boundaries of permissibility also. She happily came to her spouse and she said, Ayyub, the matter has been resolved. I met with the doctor and he's promised to cure you, and he only wants that I must acknowledge him. But subhanallah, a Nabi is not oblivious of Allah at any point in his life. He gets up and he tells his wife that I am the sick one. I am suffering, but I am content. Why are you becoming restless? That was the devil that came to you. Do you know that statement is tantamount to kufr? Because you are attributing the quality of cure which is exclusive to Allah to the creation of Allah. Now, for a person who is desperate himself, to utter that is not easy. Sayyidina Sulaiman is in the midst of affluence. In a state of ecstasy, a person forgets his position. Ecstasy and sadness, a person generally trespasses beyond the limits of Shariah. Sayyidina Sulaiman, the entire throne of Bilqis is brought. What authority, what power, what kingdom, what might. فَلَمَّا رَآهُ مُسْتَقِرًّا عِنْدَهُ قَالَ هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي لِيَبْلُوَنِي أَأَشْكُرُ أَمْ أَكْفُرُ. But when he's seen what authority Allah had endowed him with, what a vast kingdom, immediately he said, this is the sheer mercy of my Allah, that He's favored me with such a dominion, and this is out of His kindness and nothing out of my own intellect. Sayyidina Ayyub alayhi salatu wasalam says, that was the statement of the kafir, of shaitan. And I don't want him. But because of the statement that you have made, if I ever recover from my sickness, I'm going to give you 100 lashes. Now yesterday we had a little discussion. Sheikh Riyadh was speaking about, family problems and that. Look at this situation. How today trivial things are creating depression in our life. And here how Allah is favoring them. What are challenges in their life, but look at how they react. Time carries on. Someone makes a statement. Some two people, this riwayat comes in Musnad Ahmad, who are very close to Ayyub alayhi salam. One of them made a statement that I think that Ayyub is suffering so much because he has really done something wrong in his life. Wal-'iyadhu billah, that we become judgmental on the tragedies of others. Let us never become judgmental. Whenever you see a young boy doing something wrong, he's involved with some haram, Allah be my witness, I have said this before and I say it, I try my level best. Come home, perform 2 rakat salah, make dua to Allah Ta'ala, not speak about it to anyone else, Whenever you meet him, speak to him, make dua and encourage him. Today it's him, I have children, you have children. Until and unless this ummah will not embrace every child, and until and unless we will not make our contribution to this particular institution, even after my children leave from here, then we are here for the ummah and not for selfish reasons. That father who resigns from a committee after his son has left, he was there for personal reasons. This ummah is a selfless nation, not a selfish nation. So when Ayyub alayhi salam heard this, he felt very hurt. He said, Allah, you have tested me, I have persevered, I am happy, I am content. But if this is the notion of people, that I am suffering because I have done wrong, then I implore you, make instant decisions of my cure. Make a decision now of my cure. If this is the perception of people, Allah responded immediately, Inna wajadnahu sabiran ni'mal abdu innahu awwab. Inna wajadnahu sabiran ni'mal abdu innahu awwab. We found him to be very patient. We found Ayyub to be very patient. Allah said, Urkudh bi rijlika hadha mughtasalun baridun wa sharab. Strike your heel on the ground. Strike your heel, water will gush out. Drink from the water, all your internal sicknesses are cured. Bath in the water, all your external sicknesses are cured. He drinks from the water in the riwayat of Ibn Abi Hatim, وَأَلْبَسَهُ اللَّهُ حُلَّةً مِّنَ الْجَنَّةِ. Allah sends down a garment of Jannah. He is internally, externally cured. Allah restores his youth to him. He dresses the garment of Jannah and he sits there. His wife returns. She cannot identify. She comes to this young, handsome, attractive. Imagine you come home and your wife is 20 years younger. Allahu Akbar. The desire of every man. And same thing for the woman. I mean, she would say same thing, that you come home and you find, subhanallah, that she's gone so much more younger. But this is when contentment comes from Allah. In that challenge also, in that difficulty also, there was happiness, there was tranquility. So she comes to him and she asks him, أين المبتلى الذي كان ها هنا? Sorry, you mind me asking you, there was an elderly, sick, aged person here. Do you know who he is? So he smiles and he says, now, do you know my wife? I am your husband, I am Ayyub. So, like they say sometimes, too nice to be true. I would be too happy to have it, but it sounds too nice for it to be true. He then narrates the incident. They embrace one another and they thank Allah. Immediately he now recalls that I had taken a qasam that I have to lash my wife 100 times. Now one side, he doesn't want to violate his oath. At the same time, the loyalty of this partner. She stood as a pillar of support in days of difficulty and hardship. So Allah makes divine intervention in the matter. Allah makes divine concession in the matter. Not in any hadith kitab, in the Quran. Allah says, وَخُذْ بِيَدِكَ ضِغْثًا فَاضْرِبْ بِهِ وَلَا تَحْنَثْ وَخُذْ بِيَدِكَ ضِغْثًا فَاضْرِبْ بِهِ وَلَا تَحْنَثْ. O Ayyub, I acknowledge the contribution and the moral support of your wife. You're not going to lash her, and neither are you going to violate your oath. You leave it to me, I make intervention. You go and look for a bundle of grass which has 100 straws of grass in it, and then you touch her once and that's lashing her 100 times. Ibn Kathir rahmatullah alayhi says, وَهَذَا مِنَ الْفَرَجِ وَالْمَخْرَجِ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَلَا سِيَّمَا فِي إِمْرَأَتِهِ الصَّابِرَةِ الْبَارَّةِ الرَّاشِدَةِ وَلِهَذَا عَقَّبَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى بِقَوْلِهِ. That this intervention and concession that Allah made for this woman was because she stood as a pillar of support, and she stood content, she stood happy that what my Allah has decreed in our life between myself and my husband and my children, whatever my Allah has put out, I am happy. As a result of her contentment and her moral support, this was the divine intervention and concession that Allah made in the matter. I leave you with one brief incident and make dua to the Almighty Allah that He inspires this contentment in both myself and you and the entire Muslim Ummah. The entire world is desperate for contentment. Travel throughout America and North America. Wallah, more desperate than the people living in abject poverty for food is the people living in this part of the world for contentment. They are more desperate for it than those living desiring bread and water. There is nothing. They have tried it in this, they have tried it in that. In music, in women, in clubs, in scenic views, there is nothing. Allah, behold, beware, بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. It is the remembrance of Allah that brings joy to the heart. Now there are two things. One is Allah says the remembrance of Allah brings joy. Naturally the reverse meaning will be nothing else brings joy. When Allah's remembrance brings joy, nothing else can bring joy. There was an article that I read on a particular masjid board, and I leave you with this. سَيَظِلُّ عِبْرَةً لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يَذَّكَّرَ أَوْ أَرَادَ شُكُورًا. A father comes home, tired and exhausted, in the crave of materialism, blinded by money, more, just trying to amass, accumulate more and more. Nothing more. You know, this is the crave that has just engulfed every person. Nabi alayhi salam said, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا الْفَقْرَ أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَكِنَّنِي أَخْشَى أَن تُبْسَتَ عَلَيْهِ. He had sent Abu Ubaidah to Bahrain to collect some money. So when Abu Ubaidah came back from Bahrain, and he came with the money to Medina, Sahaba heard that he has returned with money. The next morning, all of them came and read Fajr there in Medina next to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَوَافَوْا صَلَاةَ الْفَجْرِ مَعَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. After Fajr, فَتَعَرَّضُوا لَهُ. They all started, coming forward and presenting themselves. So Nabi alayhi salam sensed that, أَظُنُّكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ سَمِعْتُمْ أَنَّ أَبَا عُبَيْدَ قَدِمَ بِمَالٍ مِنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ. Nabi alayhi salam says, it looks like the news has traveled that Abu Ubaidah came with some money and you people have gathered here, and the sense of jubilation that I see is in relation to your expectations. They said, yes, O Nabi of Allah, we got nothing to hide. You've read the matter as it is. Nabi alayhi salam said, well and good to you, and may Allah give you the wealth you want. I have it here, and may Allah give you barakat in it also. But while the opportunity has presented, let me seize the opportunity and tell you. فَوَاللَّهِ مَا الْفَقْرَ أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَكِنَّنِي أَخْشَى أَن تُبْسَتَ عَلَيْكُمُ الدُّنْيَا كَمَا بُسِتَتْ عَلَى مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. May Allah give you and may He give you barakat. But this is not my fear whether you have it or not. My fear is when you have too much of it. I fear the other extreme when Allah opens it so much. And that becomes the aim of this ummah, the night and the day, the morning and the evening, the young and the old, the male and the female. And then you make this the reason that when buying a car, you don't look at comforts, but you look at a car that will give you a name in society. Drive this car, people will look towards you. Wear this clothing, people will admire you. When the grounds of selecting a car will be to earn and secure a name in society, then I fear, O my nation, فَتُهْلِكَكُمْ كَمَا أَهْلَكَتْهُمْ. It will destroy you like how it destroyed the nations that preceded you. When that becomes the goal of this ummah, يَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ زَمَانٌ هِمَمُهُمْ بُطُونُهُمْ شَرَفُهُمْ مَتَاعُهُمْ قِبْلَتُهُمْ نِسَاؤُهُمْ دِينُهُمْ دَرَاهِمُهُمْ وَدَنَانِيرُهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ شِرَارُ الْخَلْقِ. But there's no joy end of the day. You have everything. طَلَبْنَا ثَلَاثَ. We are searching for three, but we are looking in the wrong place. طَلَبْنَا الْمَالِ طلبنا المال طلبنا الغنى في المال طلبنا الغنى طلبنا الراحة في الكثرة فإذا هي في القلة. We were searching for luxury in comfort. طلبنا الراحة في الكثرة. We thought the more we will have, the more happy we will be. But actually it's the less that you have, the less that you have. You don't see a person coming out at an airport who just have hand luggage. He's got less. He's going out better. He's more happy. The others are carrying so much, but they're more frustrated. Those that have more, they are more worried, they are more tense. The one that has nothing is going so nice, sailing, one way through. وَطَلَبْنَا الْكَرَامَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. And we search for honor in the creation, but it is with Allah. So anyway, this father came home. His son said, Daddy, can I speak to you today for 2 minutes? Listen to this, brothers. I need your undivided attention. I've been saying many things with regards to contentment across the hour that I've been speaking to you. Dad, can I speak to you for 2 minutes? Okay, quickly talk, man. I'm busy. I got to sign documents. I got some goods coming. I just need to know how much do you earn per hour? Look, what's wrong with you? Why do you want to know how much I earn per hour? What has that got to go? Do your work, man. Dad, I'm asking nicely, how much do you earn? To make you happy, I earn $20 an hour. Okay. Could you perhaps be kind enough to borrow me $10? No. Every time I'm giving you money, it's enough, man. Go from here. Gives him one slap and sends him off to sleep. The son goes away, father is tired. There was another youngster came to my house. He was depressed, I promise you. One young boy came to my house one day, he asked me, Maulana, do you have a dua for depression? I looked at this boy, I said, my boy, do you know what does depression mean? A boy at your age, 10 years old, do you know what is depression? This was another incident, a fairly grown-up youngster, must be in his 20s. He came to me, these were his words. He had some problems in his life. He says, my mother is terminally ill. I can't talk to her because she is very sick. My father is a stressed individual. These were his words. My father is a stressed. There's no way I can take out time and engage in a healthy discussion. You know, fatherly to son, the dad, these are the problems. Can we negotiate? Can we sit down? Can I have some input? Can we reasonably address the matters at hand? I need some input. I need some advice. My father is a stressed individual. Now what happens to this young boy who is vulnerable to vices? His parents cannot take him. The mother terminally ill. Tragically, this has happened, which happens in all families. The father, because of the mounting pressure of his business circle and because of the crave of materialism which has blinded him. Anyway, the boy goes and he says, well, that's it. He goes to sleep. As the night sets in and regret dawns upon the father, he says, no, I think I was rude to my son. I don't think it was right. He comes and he taps his son. He taps his son. Subhanallah, it brings tears to my eyes. He wakes him. My son, what's it, my son? I'm sorry, I was tired and you came to me at the wrong time. Forgive me for what I did. But what is it? What do you need? $10. Here's it, my baby, have it. So the father takes out the $10, gives it to him. He lifts his pillow. He has another $10 there. The father says, but my beloved, you have $10. I'm happy to give you. Why do you want it? سَيَظِلُّ عِبْرَةً لِمَنْ أَرَادَ. He says, Dad, it's been months, if not years. I haven't sat with you. I haven't eaten with you. I know money means everything to you. I thought I will save up money to buy 1 hour so that I can eat with you. I haven't eaten with you. I haven't seen my father. I'm living like an orphan in this house. And I know till you don't make your money, you won't come home. So I've been saving up money. And I thought if I can just get that other $10 and perhaps try and, attract you with that and say that, Dad, here's a $20. Please come home early tomorrow. We want to have supper together. It was enough for that father to be reduced to emotions and sentiments. He sold that business. But really, brothers, let us take this message to heart. What good is there in that wealth if it has deprived us of our social life, if it has deprived us of our life with Allah? May Allah Ta'ala favor myself and one and all with divine contentment that we have enough time for both deen and dunya. May Allah Ta'ala inspire us with the true tranquility which He has promised in Quran and Hadith. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Appearance reminds you about Allah. His external appearance, the manner in which He presents before you reminds you of Allah. I think the first point was taken and was quite well absorbed and understood. وَزَادَ فِي عِلْمِكُمْ مَنْتِقُهُ. And when he speaks, when he articulates, when he mentions, then your knowledge of Allah, your consciousness of Allah Ta'ala increases. And the third point, which perhaps was ambiguous or vague, which the brother has asked about, وَذَكَّرَكُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ عَمَلُهُ. His actions, his display, the manner in which he conducts himself reminds you about akhirah. How conscious he is, how meticulous he is, the manner in which he conducts himself, his honesty, his integrity, the fact that he is conscious of accountability. If a person lives a life, with no scruples, with no values, with no morals, then this is a clear reflection that he is not conscious of the perception of accountability. Allah Ta'ala says with regards to those that cheat in their dealings, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ لِيَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. That because they cheat and they commit the act of fraud in their dealings, immediately the Quran goes on to say, after cursing them, woe be to those who deal in fraud. أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ. Are they unaware that they will be resurrected? يَوْمَ يَقُومُ النَّاسُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. When humanity in its entirety will converge and will be accountable to Allah Ta'ala. So the third point in the hadith, perhaps if I may explain it again, is that this person's actions reminds his friends of akhirah. The manner in which he interacts with his friends and with his colleagues reminds you of akhirah. The next question was also with relevance to the topic on friends and befriending. What if I have my friends that I grew up with all my life, but they are not pious? Do I sever ties with them, or isn't it wise? And perhaps this is answering the question himself. Or isn't it wise to be friends with them and help them to choose the right path? Many of the youth are facing these adversities. Sheikh, I want your honest opinion, and instead of creating enmity, it could guide us in the correct way. I think the point the brother has raised is very relevant and very topical, and it is a dilemma that many youth face. Of course, the question is how much spirituality that each person has in impressing that and transmitting that very piety onto others. Of course, that is our duty as Muslims, that we become conscious of Allah Ta'ala, we become pious, and we transmit that spirituality onto others. This is the ultimate goal and object that should be in the life of every person. But more than often we find in situations like this, we get sucked and pulled in that environment, and we get influenced instead of influencing. It is well and said and done. It sounds very rosy, and theoretically I think everyone would agree, and that would be the ideal situation that yes, you could perhaps go there and take them out of that evil, introduce them to the correct without it influencing on you. But like it is always said, that when you sit with them and you associate with them, then some influence of that definitely rubs onto you. So I think it's not a general ruling that should be advocated, that severe ties or maintain ties. I think every situation's got to be identified independently. And if a person can see he has friends, and alhamdulillah gradually he is working on them, and they are bringing about a change, and he is starting to interact with good friends, and by him socializing with them and them getting exposed to his reformation in life is bringing about a change in them, so why not? Gradually bring them into the company of the pious with whom you associate, and like the question phrases it very well, that if you sever, the chances of them going deeper into sin is there. So naturally that is not the object, but at the same time not at the expense of sacrificing one's own reformation. More than often we find a person sits with those that smoke and he starts smoking. A person goes out with friends that womanizes and he perpetrates the same crime. So if he could bring them into good environment and keep contact with them on occasions where he understands he is not that vulnerable, then by all means, and that should be ideal, but not at the cost of sacrificing his own reformation. Of course, this question there could be much more that could be said, but just briefly, that is what I would like to contribute. The third question asked here is, and very briefly we're running through them. You mentioned in your talk that a father has absolute access. I think again, like Dr. Munir Al-Qasim mentioned, again it's a choice of words which perhaps give off a certain notion and perception, but nonetheless, you mentioned in your talk that a father has absolute access to his son's wealth. In the case where a father demands access to wealth, but the wealth is abused, that is wasted on gambling, is it still sinful for the son to refuse giving the wealth? Jazakallah khair for your talk and guidance. The hadith of Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, we know, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience to the creation at the cost of the displeasure and the disobedience of the Creator. I think this is quite basic and simple, that وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, that assist in matters of good and do not assist in matters of evil. As obligated and as dutiful we are to our parents in matters that conform with Shariat. That particular Sahabi, Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, after accepting Islam, and his mother vowed not to eat, nor drink, nor sleep, nor rest until her son abandons Islam. Subsequently the verses were revealed. And subhanallah, in the Quran, in the most eloquent, comprehensive, yet voluminous description of the Quran, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ لِتُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, which is a very clear-cut verse of the Quran, that if they compel you to shirk, to polytheism, to any act of disobedience, then do not obey them in that particular matter. However, this doesn't give a general ruling of becoming, rebelling against your parents. وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, be kind and loyal and faithful and dutiful, and politely decline, respect their difference, but do not comply to their dictates with regards to the disobedience of Allah. So naturally, if a person knows that a son knows that the father is asking for wealth and the father is abusing the wealth, even in the event if the father is not asking wealth from the son, but the son knows that the father out of his own earnings or wherever he's getting wealth, he is abusing the wealth in gambling, it will be the duty of the son to make efforts to guide the father, to direct the father, of course with diplomacy and with wisdom. And it would not be correct. It would not be correct for that son to give the father, knowing very well if the father is going to abuse the wealth. In fact, it can be safely said that at that time the command of Allah would be to refuse. At that time the command of Allah would be to refuse, because knowing very well the person is going to abuse the wealth. And that is exactly what Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said, Man ahabba lillah wa abghada lillah wa a'ta lillah wa mana'a lillah faqad istakmal al-iman. Very comprehensive hadith of Nabi alayhi salam. He who loves for the pleasure of Allah and dislikes for the pleasure of Allah. At times dislike, hatred on the name of Allah. Abdullah ibn Mughaffar radiallahu anhu told his son, told his nephew that, you throw in the stone like that. Nabi alayhi salam said, Innahu la yaqtulu sayyid, using the stone, aiming it at someone is not going to kill the game or the animal. Yafqa'ul ayn, it will injure someone's eye. Yaksiru sin, perhaps it will break a tooth or more. And some days later he finds his nephew using the stone in the very same way that the Nabi of Allah had prohibited. So he says, أُحَدِّثُكَ أَنَّ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وسلم نَهَا عَنِ الْخَزَفِ ثُمَّ عُدْتَ تَخْزِفْ وَاللَّهِ لَا أُكَلِّمُكَ أَبَدًا. I am telling you that the Nabi of Allah has reprimanded and prohibited. You ignore the consequences and the warnings, and yet you persist in doing this. I swear by Allah, I will never speak to you. So displeasure and anger on the name of Allah is also desired and required, and it is matlub. There are many verses of the Quran where Allah Ta'ala speaks about that also. وَأَعْطَى لِلَّهِ, and to give on the name of Allah, where Allah exhorts us and encourages us. وَمَنَعَ, and to withhold and to refuse and to hold back. And that is exactly the difference between tabdhir and israf. إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ, where Allah Ta'ala says that those that waste, they are the brothers of the devil. And Allah Ta'ala says, Innal musrifin, those, wala tusrifu, do not waste your wealth. Someone was spending a lot of wealth in good. So someone made a comment and he said, La israfa fil khair. La khayra fil israf. There is no good in extravagance. There is no good in extravagance. So that person replied by saying, correct, La israfa fil khair. You are correct in what you said, that there is no good in extravagance. At the same time, there is no extravagance in matters of good. On the occasion of Tabuk, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu gave everything. That is not extravagant, but rather that is desired. In the same way, while we are encouraged to spend in good, there are two times where we are discouraged. One is israf and tabdhir. Israf means to spend more than what is necessary in legitimate and lawful things. And tabdhir means to spend in haram. If a person spends even a cent in haram, it is tabdhir, because it is abusing the wealth. And many more things can be said. So I think the answer is quite clear, that in the event where the wealth has been abused, then of course it would not be correct to give that wealth forward. I'll just end with the last question here. What age is a Muslim female supposed to don the hijab? We know as Muslims a person becomes mukallaf, where the laws of Sharia become applicable to him or her, where salah becomes compulsory, discharging of zakah for a male to observe his salah, etc., is when he physically matures. At the point of physical maturity, this is the time where it becomes compulsory, mandatory, obligatory. But as is the pattern of the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he exhorts, we discipline our children from an earlier age so that they become routine. A person would first do a thing because of pressure. A child at the age of 7 is going to perform salah not out of the virtue or the sweetness or the love of salah, but out of the sheer pressure of his father. It would then become routine in his life. If he does it from 7 to 10, from 10 to 12 or 13, he'll do it because for the last 3 years he's been performing salah. Hence he performs it out of routine and habitual. And then after that, inshallah, the element of spirituality enters into him. We're conscious of his obligation to his creator. He's been performing for the last 5 years, conscious of the implications of salah, of the stern warnings of neglecting salah, etc. Likewise, a sister, she should don the hijab. It would be obligatory upon her at the time that if she physically matures. But of course, we would encourage her, when we see today such young girls, displaying fashion and also, in manners that are semi-nude, which is reflecting an image of immorality at a very young and tender age. So let us not consider any age to be too young to impress upon them. Al-ilmu fi as-sighri kan-naqshi fil hajar. Knowledge in childhood is like engraving something on a stone. So it would be compulsory at physical maturity, but it definitely would be encouraged at a much earlier age. That were basically the few questions that were asked. Inshallah, Shaykh Riyadh would continue. Again, in kana sawaban famin Allah, wa in kana khata'an faminni wa min ash-shaytan, wallahu wa rasuluhu minhu bari'an. That if what was said was correct, which conformed with the desire of Allah and His Rasul, then it is from Allah. وإن كان خطأ, and if it was a mistake, definitely not deliberate, فمني ومن الشيطان, then that was from my side and from the devil. والله ورسوله منه بريئان, and Allah and His exalted Nabi both are free from that particular version which was not in conformance with the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jazakallah.
That's good. Alright, one more time. It's nice, put peace on it. Assalamu alaikum. I don't quite understand the topic, but I'll try to play with it, inshallah. Go with it. When we reach the grave, when the angel of death comes, right? I'm just going to get into it, no intro, all that stuff. We don't have that much time. There's 3 questions that the angel will ask you in the grave. You guys know, right? The first question is? You guys know? Who's your Lord? Who's your Lord? Okay, maybe we'll switch up the second question.
What is your food?
Third question. Do you guys think these are easy answers? It's very easy answers. Like, who is your Lord?
Allah.
Who is your prophet? And what is your religion? Islam. Seems like very easy answers that we can say very easily right now. But the problem is that when you're in your grave, you don't speak with your tongue, but your actions speak for you. So it becomes very, if you look around and you think, now you're in the grave, and the angel is asking you, who is your Lord? Now you say Allah. It's very easy. We all say Allah. It's easy. Allah is my Lord. But then we act like that in this world. Many of us, unfortunately, on that day in the grave, we will say money is our Lord. That's what we will say. We will say money is our Lord. We will say materialism is our Lord. Because we lived in this life for that. This is what defines it. This is what defines it. Right? It's very easy for now us to be lip service. Yeah, Allah is my Lord. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he is my prophet. And Islam is my religion. It's very easy. But when you're in the grave, your actions speak for you. What did you do in this world? So when the angel comes and says, who is your Lord? You can't stop yourself, but your body will say money. Who is your prophet? You can't stop yourself. It's going to be Kobe Bryant or Jennifer Lopez or whoever it is. Because those are the people that you try to imitate. Those are the people that we try to be like. And what is your religion? It's going to be materialism and getting respect in that way. Because that's what we live for. Our scholars, our ulama have said that when people come to a non-Muslim land, they should come for the sake of Allah. They should come because they were oppressed somewhere else. They should come because there's education they can't get somewhere else. They should come to give da'wah for the sake of Islam. But unfortunately, when you look around, we find out that we just came here for the bling bling. We just came for the money. We just came to become engineers, go get a house in Mississauga that's, 2 stories with 5 bedrooms, and you're a husband and a wife and 2 kids. It's so big, you don't even know what to do with the space. You make a room just for toys, you make a room just for an office, you make a room just for this, and you leave the rest blank. We came just for that. And that's not your purpose. And a lot of times, when we talk about success, we say, what is success? Yes, I'm going to go to high school and I'm going to go to university, I'm going to become a doctor, mashallah, it's going to be very good. I'm going to get a mortgage, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get a big house, I'm going to drive a Beamer, and that's the end, that's my success. But they forgot one part of it, and that's death. Because after you do all those steps, and alhamdulillah, it's good. I'm not trying to preach poverty and saying for people to be poor. We need Muslims to be doctors. We need Muslims to get rich. We need Muslims to be the richest people in Toronto, in Canada. We need that. And alhamdulillah, if you look around, you find out that Muslims are very, very wealthy. A lot of Muslims are very, very wealthy. Alhamdulillah. The question is what they do with that cash. What do they use it for? Were you created here in Canada to come here and just to buy a big house and have a Beamer? And I'm saying youth. You guys are the young people. I know you guys are not there yet. And you guys are probably just driving around the 1986 Honda Accord or something, because that's all your dad gave you when you turned 16, 17, right? But I'm talking about the future, because now you have to understand these things so that you make a decision. Where are you going to go in life? Which way are you going to go? What are you going to do? Yeah, okay. What am I going to do with my life? I'm going into university. What am I going into? Why am I going into it? Am I going just to make money? Am I going just to get respect, just so people call me doctor? Or in our culture, if you're an engineer, they call you Ya Muhandis. It's big, you know? Ya Muhandis. Even if he ends up being a taxi driver, they still, Ya Muhandis. And there's no shame in being a taxi driver. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we have to get rid of these labels. These labels, they're not there. This is not what you're created for. But the creation is there for you to use the means, like I was saying yesterday. Use what you have. You want to be a doctor? Alhamdulillah, go be a doctor. But be a doctor for the sake of Islam. Be a doctor. Like Imam Khalid Griggs, he told me in his community in North Carolina, he said twice a month they have a free clinic for people to come in. The doctors come for free and they give medications for free. Because in the US it costs money to go to the doctors and some people can't afford it. You want to become a doctor? Be a doctor. And don't stay here. Take time and go to countries where they lack doctors. Go to Iraq. You don't think they need Iraq? They need doctors in Iraq? You don't think they need doctors in Palestine? Wallahi, they need doctors more than here. And people, Muslims come over here, they become doctors, they buy their big house in Mississauga, they have 4 cars and a 4-car garage, and they just chill. Yeah, okay, alhamdulillah, we are very successful now. But they forgot one part of the equation, and that's death. Because you can have all the success in this life, but it doesn't guarantee anything in the next life. And you will be asked those questions in the grave. And the last thing you want to do is say your prophet was Kobe Bryant. That's the last thing you want to do. The last thing you want to do is the answer for Allah. Instead of saying Allah, you say money was my God. Because everything that you did was to get the money. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to go to school and get educated, not for the sake of just money, but for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Islam. That's what you do it. So you got to check now. You got to check yourself. You got to look around. We're Muslims in Toronto. What do we need? We got to look. What do we need? Our community, what does it need? Do we need doctors? Do we need engineers? Maybe. What do we need? You got to think. You got to check yourself. We got to think now. What do we need? Do we need teachers? Maybe, yeah, I think we need teachers. Do we need lawyers? Do we need that? Do we need police officers? Do we need this? Do we need that? You got to think, and then you got to say, okay, I got to look inside myself. I can do that. I can fill that void. And that's when you get a strong community. And with a strong community, you get a strong society. And when you have a strong society, there's no more need to give da'wah. There's no more need to be like, okay, I'm going to go give da'wah today, because your example is da'wah. You acting like a Muslim in your neighborhood, being the Muslim that you're supposed to be, and acting with the neighbor like you're supposed to act. You doing things for this society by itself, that's your da'wah. You don't have to say, oh, Melissa, you know, because Melissa's my friend from yesterday. Melissa, you know, I want to tell you about Islam. No, she will see it. She will see it through your actions, through what you did, through your life. She will see it. She will see it when she sees that the strongest teacher that cares the most about the students is the Muslimah. She will see it. She will see it when there's the doctor who gives out free medication for the sake of Allah, because you don't need $100,000 a year to live. Alhamdulillah, you make $100,000 a year, $50,000 for you, $50,000 for the community, $50,000 for Islam. And this is not something now they have crazy. You want to give that much money away? Look at our examples. Look at Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Look at Umar bin Khattab. Umar bin Khattab came and he said, I gave half of my wealth for Islam. Half of everything I have. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, what will you keep for yourself? He said, I'll keep the other half for me and my family, and half for the sake of Allah. Abu Bakr came and he gave everything. The Prophet Muhammad, these are real people. These are not fairy tale stories. These are real people, man. These are people that live. These are not prophets. These are not angels. These are people that walk the earth. These are the people that make the difference. He said, I'll give everything I have and I'll keep Allah and His Messenger for my family, man. These are the people we have to imitate. Not Kobe Bryant and Puff Daddy. Those are the people. What happened to those people? Those are the people that sacrificed for us to be Muslim today. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He went to Taif. He was being persecuted. His people were being persecuted. He said, I'm going to find a better place where we can worship Allah Azza wa Jal. We can't do it in Makkah. I'm going to go to Taif. He went to Taif. What did he say? He went to the people. He said, I come as a prophet. For Allah, leave the idols. Come to Islam. Stop oppressing the poor. Stop oppressing the slave. Down with racism. Down with these things. All the problems that you see today, he came to solve. They stoned him, man. The best of creation, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They stoned him. He was blood drenched in blood. And the angel came to him and said, I will take the 2 mountains of Uhud. This is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Learn from him. He said, the angel came and said, I will take the 2 mountains of Uhud and I will crush that city for the dishonor that they gave you. And what did he say? What did he say? He said, leave them, they know not, and maybe their children will be followers of Islam. Maybe their children will worship Allah Azza wa Jal. Maybe their children, who are their children? Their children are the people in Pakistan. Then he had foresight to know that maybe those people will become Muslim. Maybe the people in India will become Muslim. Maybe the people in Iran, in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Indonesia, in Palestine, in Africa, in Somalia, in Sudan, in Morocco. Maybe people in Canada, in the United States, in South America. Maybe the Cherokee tribe. Maybe these people, they will one day become Muslim. Don't crush them. Their children will know better. Who are their children? Where are the children? Where are the reason that they struggled? What were they giving for the sake of Allah? They were giving so that the dawah can go forth. They were giving. Bilal radiallahu anhu, he struggled with the rock. Ahad, ahad, ahad. Why did he do that? So that the children next time, the next society, the next generation could be practicing. Sumayya radiallahu anha, she was killed in the most horrific way. The first martyr of Islam. A woman. And we should try to name our children after Sumayya. She's a wonderful, wonderful example for us. She died for the sake of Islam. Why? So that maybe the children, the next generation could become Muslim. And then we get that Islam. We get the freedom, and what do we do with it? Back pocket. We don't want to deal with it right now. We don't want to deal with that right now. Yeah, we got Islam, but we don't want to do it. Only on Fridays. Only when the ISNA conference come around. I was talking to Brother Omar. I said, I want to know about MIO. What's MIO doing? Do you guys have a regular halaqah going on? He's like, nah. What's going on? Look at all the brothers and sisters over here. You guys can't get together on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, get together Friday night for the sake of Islam? Talk about Islam, talk about Allah and His Messenger. What are you doing on Friday nights in Toronto? I'm sure there's stuff going on, but there's so many Muslims. All the Muslims should be doing Islamic activities as much as they can. Instead they're watching TV, going clubbing, doing this, doing that, getting in trouble with the law. In Ottawa, the worst people in society are Muslims. Whenever there's a fight, whenever there's a stabbing, whenever there's youth getting in trouble, you hear that it's Muslims. What's going on here? What are we doing? Do we realize that those people sacrificed for us? Do we realize what some of us as youth, what our parents, some of them went through to get over here in this part of the land? For us to be productive for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal? My in-law, my mother-in-law tells me stories of her family moving from India to Pakistan by walking. And then they tell me stories of how they ended up in England by all these weird roads. They didn't get on the airplane and go. And then how they ended up over here and how they work 20 hours a day. These are your parents. 20 hours a day, 18 hours a day, so that you don't have to go through that struggle. That they do it so you can watch TV, watch music, BET, and listen to this garbage hip-hop. And what you do on Friday night, you go and try to mac the girls, and the girls go and dress all nice for the guys, and they put up all this makeup, and they go to the YMCA, and they look at the guys that are playing basketball, and you do all these things. Is that why they did it? So you can go to a party, and you can go to clubbing and all these things? Is that why they did it? Is that why your parents work 20 hours a day for you to have a better life? Is that why? And you go to public schools, I go to public schools and I speak with the principal and he tells me the Muslim kids are the worst kids in the school. Is that why they did it? You go walking around, I guarantee you, I don't know Toronto that well. You go walking down Yonge Street on Saturday night and all you see is Muslims. You see so many Muslims. And then we try to think, who's responsible for that? Who is responsible for that? Look at you here. These are the best people in Toronto right now, in my opinion. You came for the sake of Allah to a conference to listen to people talk about Islam. This is great. You should be proud of yourself. But don't let it stop here. It has to continue. It has to become regular. It has to become consistent. Don't let Minna do an activity once a year. No. You go to the brothers and sisters that are involved in Minna. You say, yeah, I live in Scarborough. I want to start a halaqah. I want to start a program. Can you help us? Go to young Muslims. Say the same thing. Go to the masjid. And go to the masjid and say, I come to this masjid and I never see any youth. What's going on? I want youth to come to this masjid. We're going to start having programs. We're going to start, I go to the Scarborough Mosque. It's the most beautiful mosque I've ever seen. And whenever I go there, all I see is elders. There's a basketball court in that mosque. Now, you know how much you can do with that? You know how many people you can bring with that? Toronto, alhamdulillah, the people in Toronto, we're rich. Muslims. Rich Muslims. I see the houses in Ajax and Mississauga and these rich Muslims. Allah bless you people. Bless you people more than any other city in Canada. Allah bless the Muslims in Toronto with wealth. Use that wealth. I'm talking to the parents. Use that wealth, Ya Muhandis. Use that wealth. Use that wealth. Give it to the youth. Give it to the youth and tell them, you on Friday night, I want you to have a barbecue in this masjid every Friday night and make it free and advertise it. Send emails, advertise it, put it on the radio. I want you to get the bus, and instead of the bus advertising the radio station, we're going to put that there's a free barbecue for people to come. Muslims and non-Muslims, let them come. And put your money there and let the people come. Do things for the people, man. Volunteer yourself for the people. Get involved in Mina. Get involved in Isna. Get involved in your local masjid. Get involved in Masjid Khalid bin Walid. Get involved in the foundation. Get involved in the Isna school in Mississauga. Get involved wherever you can get involved. Do something with yourself, man. Stop wasting your time. We're not here to waste time. Allah didn't put us here to waste time. Every minute that goes by, you're never going to get it back. Every hour that goes by, you're never going to get it back. It's gone. You can't retrieve it no more. It's gone, man. People call me at work. I do IT, they call me and they go, yeah, I had this folder and I deleted it by mistake and now it's gone. I'm like, no problem. We back that up. We'll restore it for you. You can't restore time, man. It's over. Once it comes and it goes, it's gone. It's not coming back. So what are we going to do with ourselves? Now a week is coming. A year is coming. 2004, there's still some time left. Then it's going to be 2005. Do you know when you're going to die? Do you know when you're going to die? Does anybody know? Raise your hand if you know when you're going to die. Nobody knows when they're going to die, man. People die. My wife's best friend died when she was 18 years old. She was driving and a drunk driver hit her. She died. Did she think that she was going to die? She had her life ahead of her. That's what she was thinking. That's what her parents were thinking. That's what her friends were thinking. That's what we think about ourselves. We got our life. We got our life ahead of us. And the Sahabas, the Prophet Muhammad asked them, how close is death to you? They said, when we pray Fajr, we don't know. One of them said, when we pray Fajr, we don't know if we're going to make it to Dhuhr. The other one said, when we pray Dhuhr, we don't know when we're going to make it to Asr. The other one said, when I pray Asr, I don't know if I'm going to make it to Maghrib. The next one, when I pray Maghrib, I don't know if I'm going to make it to Isha. The Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, when I give my salam, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the next one. And we act as if we have 100 years. That we're going to make it forever. As young people, this is our attitude. Yeah, I believe in Allah, but not, right now I'm going to have fun. And when I turn 40, that's when I'm going to start doing things for Allah. That's what people say. That's what young people say. And some of the parents say that to the kids. Oh, don't wear hijab now. Don't wear binti, no hijab now. But after you get married, you wear hijab. After you go to Hajj, then you wear hijab. When you do this, then you start practicing Islam. Wait, don't do it now. The young people are the people that take society to another level. You don't want to waste your youth doing nothing. This is the time, man. Allah will ask you about what you did with your young age. When you get old like me, you got no more time. Look, I got married, now I'm fat, I got a kid coming, I can't do nothing no more. Losing my energy before I can talk for 2 hours, now I have to drink water. Do it now, man. Now's the time. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, there will be 7 people that are shaded with the shade of Allah. The day where there is no shade, the sun will be so bright. It will be so hot, they will be shaded. One of the people who are shaded are the youth. The young people who worship Allah Azza wa Jalla. And worship in Islam is not just fasting. It's not just praying. Islam is not a religion. People say Islam is a religion because the English language is not strong enough to describe what we're about. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a way of life. Islam is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, man. It's not something that you do part-time. A religion is something, over here when you say religion, it's only on Sundays. No, man. It's every day. It's when you wake up. It's when you start your life. You pray. You ask Allah for strength. It's when you go to school. You go for the school for the sake of Allah. It's when you go to work. It's when you go home. It's when you go to the masjid. It's even when you go to the grocery store. You go with the Islamic adab. People are looking at you. They know that you're a Muslim. They're looking at you, and every judgment that they make will be based on how you act. And Muslims have the worst adab. Muslims go and they butt into line at Costco. I see it happening all the time. They butt into line in front of everybody. They have no respect. Muslims call our help desk and they're the rudest people when they call. They're the rudest people. And really we have to reform ourselves. And it starts with the young people. You have to realize every step that you take, you're walking for the sake of Allah. People judge you, like it or not. People judge Islam depending on how you act, how I act, how we act. And really this is a heavy responsibility. So we got to look in ourselves. And we got to check ourselves, man. Your neighbor, when you leave, let's say that you live on a street and you have a neighbor. And really we have to think like this. And you move from that house, what's going to be their reaction? Are they going to say, thank God those Muslims left? Is that what they're going to say? Is that what they're going to say? Or are they going to say, man, those Muslims, they were really nice to us, they were great neighbors, they looked out for us. They're the best neighbors we ever had. You have to check. Which one is it? And every individual has to check themselves. If all the Muslims were wiped out from Canada, are the Canadian people over here going to say, oh, thank God all these Muslims are out of here. All they're doing is drug dealing in my neighborhood. And all they were doing is drinking in my neighborhood. And all they're doing is causing fights in my neighborhood. Is that what they're going to say? Really, we have to check ourselves. Get out of the bubble. Get out of the bubble. Yeah, we look great right now. This is the conference is great, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Oh man, Islam is great. We have brotherhood. That's fake. We don't got no brotherhood. We're supposed to have brotherhood. We don't have brotherhood. The brother becomes Muslim. He's African American. He becomes a Muslim. He's a good Muslim. He's a good person. He has good adab. There's nothing wrong with him but the skin of his color. And he's everybody's brother until that maybe he wants to marry your daughter. Right? Then the brotherhood stops. Then the brotherhood stops. No more brotherhood when it came to that. And this is really, we gotta check. It's all good. Yeah, mashallah, brother, assalamu alaikum. You became Muslim. Oh, mashallah, mashallah, mashallah. You need to get married? And that's how it is. Same thing with the sister. Sister becomes Muslim. Wonderful sister. She's better than the Muslim sister. She chose to come to Islam. She's wonderful. But the skin of her color, we don't like that. Right? And all these things, when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in his last sermon, and we gotta check the last sermon, man. Print the last sermon, put it on your fridge, read it every day. Because the last sermon, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he knew the problems of the Muslims that were gonna come about. He knew what was going on. He had foresight, man. He wasn't like us just thinking about what am I gonna eat for lunch. He's thinking about later, man. He's thinking about years and years and years and years later. He said there's no difference between a black man and a white man. There's no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab. But they're taqwa. How much do they think about Allah Azza wa Jal? Taqwa is a complicated word, like our Shaykh was saying yesterday. How much do they think when they make their decisions? Where is Allah? I'm going to make my decision. Okay, I want to move. I'm going to move to this place. Okay, a nice house, nice park. What about the Muslim community? Is there a Muslim community there? Is there an Islamic school there you can send your kid? Is there other kids in that neighborhood that your children can be friends with? We got to check these things, man. I'm going to make a decision to go to university now. Where is Allah when you make the decision? You got, okay, I like these things, and I want to make money, and I want to have a job. They're all good, but where is Allah? Where is Allah when you make that decision? Where is Allah? And we got to check ourselves. Right now, we need social workers desperately in the Muslim community. We need family counselors desperately. We need it. You go to the women's shelter, and you go to in Montreal they call it Maison des Jeunes, right? The youth homes about kids that don't have any place to stay. And you go and you see these kids, and you find out how many of them are Muslims. And we're stuck in our mansion watching our big screen plasma TV. That's what we do. Oh, there's football and basketball on in the weekend. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. What are you doing this weekend, brother? Yeah, I'm going to get together with some brothers, and we're going to sit down and we're going to watch TV all day. Yeah. Yeah, brotherhood, man. You call that brotherhood? Yeah, it's fun and dandy, it's great, but that's not brotherhood. Brotherhood is struggling together. You think the Sahabas got together and they said, we're going to have brotherhood, so we're going to play together? We're going to sit around and joke together? We're going to go eat together? That's your concept of brotherhood? We're going to go to Popeyes together? We're going to, no, man. You got to struggle together, man. You got to join. You got to join Minna. You got to join Young Muslims. You got to join these organizations. You got to get in the masjid. And then you got to get with your brothers and sisters. That's when you got to get with them. And then you got to say, okay, now We're talking about brotherhood. What's brotherhood? At Fajr Salah, all of us are going to be here tomorrow morning, man. All of us are going to be here. And if you're not here, we got a problem. And we're going to work on that problem. I'm going to come to your house and pick you up. I remember I had problems with Fajr. When I first started practicing, the brother used to come and knock on my window. I used to live in the basement of my house. He used to come and knock on my window. How do you get up, man? That's brotherhood. I love that brother until today. We have a brother, we have a bond of brotherhood that nobody can break. Nobody can break. No Muslim can break. No non-Muslim can break. Nothing can break. Because I know that brother loves me. Because at 5 in the morning, he got up, drove to my house and woke me up because he didn't want me to go to Jahannam for missing prayer. That's brotherhood and sisterhood. But do we do that for us, brotherhood and sisterhood? Oh, let's go eat together. Or let's go do this together. Or let's go do that together. That's not, you gotta struggle together, man. You gotta know each other. It shocks me that I know brothers in Toronto, in one end of the city, and I know brothers in the other end of the city, and these brothers don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. You're Muslims, man. You're Muslims. You're Muslim youth. You got to get to know each other. You got to travel. You got to go to the different masjids. When I first started practicing, I made it a point. I said, I'm going to take the metro and the subway in Montreal, and I'm going to go to every masjid. I want to see every masjid in the city. You should do that too. I know Toronto's big. A lot of masajid. You got to go check it out. You got to go see. This is how your iman will rise. Go meet the other youth that work for the sake of Islam. Go to every event that you can go. Go to everything that you can go. And start to set up things that are consistent. It's not just about being big. It's not just about being big, but it's about everybody doing something in their own neighborhood. Take care of your neighborhood. Take care of your hood. Represent your hood, like they say. Represent your hood. Represent is not just saying, yeah, I'm from here. No, take care of where you're from. Take care of it. That's where you're at. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you came from, but this is where you're at now. And you're responsible for this land here. You live in this building. You live in this neighborhood. You live on this street. You're responsible for that. What are you going to do for that? Allah will ask you about that. The people on the street, they will hold you accountable for that. You're a Muslim and you live on the street, and there's other Muslim youth that are on your block that are not practicing. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, they will look at you and they will tell you, you went to the conference, you never tried to bring me. Yeah, I was stubborn, I didn't want to go, but you didn't try either. And Allah will ask you why you didn't try. Allah will ask you about those people. Allah will ask you about the non-Muslims on your street. Allah will ask you about the people in your school. Allah will ask you about your teachers. Allah will ask you about your workmates. Allah will ask you about your boss. Allah will ask you about everybody, even the gas station clerk when you go and fill up your gas. If you act rude with him, Allah will ask you. Because he will say on Yawm al-Qiyamah, when Allah says to him, why did you not come on the path? He will say, that brother Ali, he came and he pumped gas and then he tried to jip me for my money. He will say, it was because of him. He gave me a bad taste for Islam. They'll try to blame it on you. And rightfully so. We're so quick to put everybody in Jahannam as Muslims. Oh, these kuffars are going to hell. What did you do to stop it? What did you do to stop it? What did you do to make a difference? That you're so arrogant that you think you're going to heaven. Oh, all these kuffars are going to hell. Oh, that person over there, her ear was showing in her hijab, she's going to hell. Or that brother over here, his pants were too, his beard is not long enough, he's going to hell. Who do you think you are to put people in hell? You think you're Allah, man? Who do you think you are? No, it's not about that. You got to check yourself. What did you do to stop these people? What did you do to guide these people? Look at the prophets. Look at the prophets. Look at Ad. The people of Ad. They were sent Salih to guide them. Talk with them. He tried to guide them. What happened? They were destroyed. They were destroyed. But he was saved. Why? He was saved. Salih was saved, alayhi salam, because he made the efforts to make a change. Same thing with all the other prophets. Same thing with Lut, alayhi salam. Same thing. Same thing with all these prophets. Same thing with Nuh, alayhi salam. They tried. They made the effort. Can we say that we made effort? Can we say that we're doing it right now? Or after this ISNA conference is finished, yeah, Ali Shayan came from Montreal. He screamed and he yelled. He gave me a headache. Brother Sheikh Zilallah Khan, he came all the way from Halifax. Right? He came over here and he tried to talk to us about Islam and we listened. Oh, it was great, mashallah, what a wonderful event. And then tomorrow, Monday morning comes, Tuesday morning comes, and it's the same thing. Hi, Melissa. And it's the same routine. And every day is the same day. And it's the same 9 to 5. It's the same thing. You wake up, you go to school, you come home, you watch TV, you go to bed. That's what it is. And you gotta check yourself, man. Every day has to be better as a Muslim. Every day you got to get stronger as a Muslim. Every day you got to be more productive as a Muslim. Every day you got to help people, man. That's what the prophets were here to do. The prophets came here, peace be upon all of them. Allah sent them to guide the people, to help the people, to take the people out of Jahiliyyah, take them out of their ignorance, take them out of their misery. But guess what? Newsflash, there's no more prophets. After Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's no more prophets, man. No more coming. Allah's not sending nobody else. What does that mean? That means the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has the responsibility that these prophets had. That's what it means, man. You got the haqq, you got the truth. You got the one-way ticket to Jannah, as you think? Let's do something with it, man. Let's take it and run with it, man. Take the baton, run with it, man. Islam is going down. Now it's picking up again. It's picking up again. The young Muslim in Canada, in the United States, in England, in France, where there's all sorts of jahiliyyah, they're coming to the deen. But don't stop. Don't let it stop. Take the baton and run with it, man, and pass it on to the next generation. Pass it on. Then the next generation will become stronger. And the generation after that will become stronger. And the generation after that will become stronger. And the seeds that you put down, you will see, will be the most beautiful tree. أقول قولي هذا أستغفره ولسان المسلمين كل دم استغفره غفور رحيم.
تكبير الله تكبير
والصلاة والسلام على خاتم النبيين صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I wasn't scheduled to speak today at this point, but I was in Waterloo last week and we did a talk and basically has to deal with the topic today. I think it was just some mix-up. I think Abdul Rashid Brown was supposed to be here. If he's here, if he likes to give the talk, I don't have a problem with that. But I'll start, inshallah. Now, the day is winding down, and a lot of brothers and sisters have put a good amount of effort in to bring this event to fruition, inshallah. I think sometimes we're very pathetic as a community. So many thousands of Muslims in Toronto complaining about $60 or $50 or complaining about, oh, ISNA's charging too much, or this, that, the other. I think if you have a problem, you can go to the brothers and deal with them. They're very nice. Brother Shamim is a very lovely brother, very considerate, and trying to get me into the dinner yesterday. Very lovely. And I think it's really pathetic on our part when we put a money figure on giving an Islamic environment and being amongst Muslims. It's nice to see our brothers and sisters all over, the busted up, the pious, the non-pious, the young man. I think I'm going to start speaking with a man. You know my topic today, man. It's like, man, we're finished, man. Man. So before I start, inshallah, there's a nice thing that the sisters are doing in the stall there. They have Jazakumullahu khairan, and I think it's a very nice thing. I think we should support them. They're doing nice art, and inshallah they improve. So I would just like to say Jazakumullahu khairan. There's my stamp for today, inshallah. So now we're one step away from the hereafter. Whether it's money, whether it's dunya, or whatever it is, we're just one step away because we don't know when the timeline is actually going to finish itself. There's a hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "La taqumu as-sa'a," that the hour will not be established. حتى يكون أسعد الناس في الدنيا لكاع ابن لكاع. That the most happiest person with the dunya would be the most ignorant, stupid fool. This is Luka' ibn Luka', actually the translation, literal translation is the most ignorant, stupid fool. Meaning that person will be so happy with what they have. So the hour, and this is, there's a riwayah in Tirmidhi and also in Musnad of Imam Ahmad. So this riwayah is very, shocking for us to see that what's going to actually take place. So a lot of people who really get happy with what they have. Now, dunya in itself comes from the word dana'a or danu'a, which means vile. So, and it means to be low and despicable. So what we have dunya, but now we have wrong conception of dunya. As soon as the brothers and sisters start actually becoming a little pious, everything becomes dunya. Oh dunya akhi, dunya, dunya, dunya. Your wife is not a dunya. Your house that you're living is not a dunya. Although, metaphorically speaking, I mean that everything is in the dunya, but Islamically, the dunya is something extra of what you have. Of what you have that you can get rid of, but you're literally clinging onto it. So it really takes an effort to get away from it. And adna'a, also from the same root word, means inferior. So this dunya that we keep running for is something that is inferior and has second rate and poor quality. Now we are hurrying towards something that is inferior. So the question on everybody else's mind is how to get ahead. How do you and I get ahead? Just getting ahead. What does it mean to get ahead? Corporate ladder, how you dress, I'm getting ahead, I'm getting ahead. What does it mean to get ahead? And I know there's very good brothers and sisters, the rich and the poor. Because I used to make a mistake sometimes and say, oh, they're very good, some of them very, very generous, they have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there's few and far in between. Usually they're miserly, because this is a test for them. But they're very good brothers and sisters who have that. But what I mean by getting ahead, that in expense of every other thing, you want to lose that to get ahead, to get this inferior thing. Because by the very text of dunya itself, is that something that is inferior. So inferior, we're running to get something that is inferior itself. Now, whatever the sacrifice, it doesn't matter. I get up at 4 o'clock, I will study, I will get up at this and I will do that, I will get up and I will drive for 2 hours, work from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, drive another 2 hours, come at 7, sleep in front of the TV, don't even look at my wife, don't talk to my children, I will do whatever I have to do because I'm getting ahead for something that is actually inferior. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ma'ashar al-jinni wal-ins, that all mankind and all people of, all jinn, the unseen creatures, didn't there came to you messengers telling you, يَقُصُّنَ عَلَيْكُمْ, meaning expounding to you the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and warning you, لِقَاءَ يَوْمِكُمْ هَذَا, warning you of this day, meaning the day of judgment, that this day will come. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, your sa'a al-sughra will start with your death. The small hour will start with your death. And it's that close. It's just one step away, and it's just that close. So we run after things that are second rate. Dunya is second rate, but we're running after it. Whether it's rap music, 50 Cent's rapper. Who's 50 Cent? How many people have heard of 50 Cent? They say he's one of the most popular. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Today he's going to raise their hand. 50 Cent. I've never heard him rap, but I've read a commentary on him that says that he was shot 8 times and 1 time through his tongue. 9 times? Oh, mashallah. Even the cat has 7 lives. That's not our Islamic tradition. So anyway. So you have 50 Cent's rapper. So how do we put ourselves out with property, with every other thing that we have? We're putting ourselves out with every other thing. Whether to amass more, to get more. And some brother, I know there's brother in, I really sometimes get mixed up, where's Scarborough and where's, anyway, somewhere down that side, by the Nagid Masjid, that area. There's a brother, he's a Guyanese brother. And just his welcoming and his adab and how he treated myself and my family. Not that we were just so old, he treated us like, he just gave everything. He said, here's my house, here's my Acura, here's this, here's the fridge, here's this, here's that, and I'm gone. And he just left it with us. And just his feeling of his brotherhood was amazing, because we had a shahada in his house, and he has another house where another sheikh is staying, and we had a shahada in his house too. Within that, it was a barakah actually in this last December period. And I just went to his closet and took some of his new books, and I said, here you go, this is a present for you. My brother, and I told him I took this, I want to replenish. He said, no, Jazakumullahu khairan that you did that. So we need people like that. We need people actually who give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I felt a sense of sincerity. So not just getting property, but we get property and we never share it with somebody. So it's always somebody, you see a Muslim brother day in and day out living in a little apartment, 4 kids, he can't afford it. Why don't you give them a hand? Why don't you do something? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that can do a lot of khair, but we don't do it because we're stuck in this material imbalance that we have. So we should have a balance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَبُّكَ الْغَنِيُّ ذُو رَحْمَةٍ. Allahu Akbar. This is amazing. You know, all the Quran is just the literal, you know, when I see Alif Lam Mim, I said, wow, this is my own bias. But I just feel so elated when I see the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbukal, meaning your Lord is free of all wants. Dhu Rahmah. He is free of all wants, meaning He wants nothing. He is not in need of anything that you have, but you are in need of everything that He has. Dhu Rahmah. And He is full of mercy. Full of mercy. This is who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. So if you really want to establish your life and that pattern, you go to Rabbil Alameen. Dhu Rahmah. He's filled with mercy. Because everything in this life actually shows His mercy and His intricate balance that He has set in this life. Once you don't understand that balance, then you go astray. You start worshipping different things, worshipping money, worshipping idols, worshipping things that are actually something that you can create with your own hands, with your own desires. You start worshipping your desires, your looks, your fame, your fortune. This becomes actually your God. So if you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Dhu Rahmah, He's one with, you know, with an immense amount of mercy that we cannot comprehend. Allahu Akbar. Adam Smith, the father of capitalism or the father of economics, he said, he was a miserable man. He said, whatever, and he even had a point because these people had, even though they made the system, they understood the point beyond the system. They said that wherever there is great property, there is great inequity. Wherever there is great property, and these are the founders of this whole get going, destroy yourself, destroy your family, but make sure you get everything you can get and then take nothing to your grave. So this is being advertised so well. Brothers keep saying, oh, the Darwin theory, I can prove this. But they don't understand, this is a way of life. It is not something scientifically you're proving and disproving. It is a way of life because once the Darwin theory is destroyed, what happens is that the way of life, because materialistic concept actually gets demolished, decimated. So then the way of life, you cannot, once you know that there is a link to a greater being, then you have to start becoming religious. So the Christians start actually becoming more Christian. And it's very hard for the people that when they become religious to always be in this materialistic trap. So it is not just the Darwin theory that you're trying to, it's a way of life, it's an ideology that actually is there. So there's great inequity where there's great property. So he even knew that. So we're quick to get poor quality because dunya is poor quality. They gave jobs to the natives, indigenous people. And they gave jobs to these indigenous people. For example, $4 an hour. I'm just making a figure. Like a brother said. And so said, man! So I have to make up my own man also. So I have to feed off of you. I froze my dear Sheikh here, Sheikh Ahmed from Mauritania. He was frozen last night. We turned the thermostat low and I was just too tired. And then what good adab he has, mashallah. So anyway, $4 an hour. My brain is a little bit scattered today because I have a lot of pressures, you know. I'll speak to you about that, inshallah. $4 an hour. So you give them $4 an hour. Now what happens with $4 an hour is that they went to work. And then they said, well, in order for us to motivate you further, we'll give you $8 an hour. So you know what they did? They worked half the time. They said, why are you doing that? I said, well, we only needed this amount to live. So we go and spend more time with our families. So they couldn't get them because these were people of fitrah and they understood land and so on. If you go into South America and different areas, when you go into the wilderness and you see the trees and you see the Amerindian people, they're lovely people. I just sat with an old man as though I knew him all my life. You know, as a Pakistani, I sat with Chachu. Chachu was sitting next to me, or Chacha. Not the cha-cha that you do the dance from. So they're lovely people, and when you get close to land, you will understand how lovely they are. They're really lovely. And you know what the Amerindians do is that the male, he sleeps, he eats, he drinks, and she's very strong. And she you know, sharpens the arrow, she takes care of everything. And when he comes with the catch, he comes with the fish, she goes and prepares it, cooks it, cleans it. So all he has to do is go and hunt. And that's a lifestyle that I've been looking for a long time. And my wife has given it to me, mashallah. I just want to sleep, eat, just go and hunt a little bit and come back, and that's it. So, and they're lovely people, but they have a lifestyle that they're so close to nature. But we have a lifestyle that is so imbalanced, so that's why we cannot enjoy anything. Sometimes you need to get out. We have to stop building our schools that are so ugly. They put gray things on the window. That's a suffocation for me. I used to go into prisons to counsel and to meet some brothers and so on and so forth. And every time they close the door behind me, I say, oh Allah. Every time they, oh my goodness. And then you would go in and you see this big brother coming in. I said, brother, why did you do that? Again, I talk to you. If I ever see you again, and this brother, yes brother, inshallah. And if you just take me, you could squeeze me to death. Yes brother. I said, don't do that. If I catch you outside again, you better report it. So I see out of that window in the jail, you know, little narrow thing like this. It just reminded me of the school system itself, because when I went to the school system to give some talks, I saw the same thing. So I told the teacher, I said, why don't you take your class out sometimes? It was a nice summer day, and I said, they're just dying in here, they're not paying attention. Take them out, let them breathe, give them some proper education. He said, you know, you have a point, and we're doing that. So we keep being artificial. Now what we have to look, we are crazy, going crazy at the expense of our kids. More money, more happiness. This is our solution. More money, more happiness. Secondly, more hours put into studies or work or whatever, therefore you will be happy. That's another solution we have, which is not a solution. Well, as I told you before, one of the sons said, I wish my father was dead. He wrote that email to his son. I wish my father, I wish you were dead. That's what he wished for his father, and his father is a good brother, but spending no time with his son. So now we're working for what? To destroy our families, working to destroy our iman. So we are working to lose our families. Thirdly, more material will give you, your family, better comfort, so you'll be more happy. It doesn't work like that. Now, Hatim al-Azam, he said, alayhi rahmatullah, he was with his sheikh, and he said, the first benefit that I observed in creation and saw that everyone had a love and one passionately desire whom he loved or longed for. Now some of the love accompanied the lover to the brink of sickness and death, and others to the gate of the grave itself. And all of them returned and left them there alone, so no one goes into the tomb with him. So he, after studying with his teacher for many years, he was propounding some of the things that he learned. So that's what he's saying. And then he said, فَتَفَكَّرْتُ وَقُلْتُ أَفْضَلُ مَحْبُوبِ الْمَرْءِ مَا يَدْخُلُ فِي قَبْرِهِ. That he thought about that everyone had a loved one and everyone followed them to the brink of sickness or to some part, but only up to the grave itself. So then he thought about that and he said, the best beloved is the thing that will actually literally follow you into the grave itself. And we all know the hadith of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, 3 will follow and 2 will return. Your family will return and your property will return. But what will stay with you are the good deeds that you have done. So he thought, for many years he studied with his sheikh, and he came up with that. Then he said, I found it to be